Chapter 666. This was not an exaggeration at all. A total of more than 500 Beast Kings were traveling together. How could the combined aura of experts be insignificant? It was simply overwhelming. Everywhere in the vast universe was filled with this kind of extremely valiant aura. Even a master of the Tianxian level, or even a master of the supreme level, would not be able to withstand it, let alone an ordinary person. General Wan was so shocked that he did not even bother to put on his clothes. He was only wearing a pair of shorts, exposing his hairy chest and thighs. Forcing himself to support himself, he ran out in a panic. Standing in front of the doorstep, he looked up and could not help but feel his scalp tingle. His whole body turned cold as he blurted out, "Oh my God! Oh my dear mother!" The sky in the south suddenly turned dark. A huge crane spread its wings and flew over. Its red eyes stared fiercely at the heavens and earth. On the back of this majestic crane, a graceful woman in white stood upright. Whether it was her expression or her temperament, it was filled with a domineering aura, as if she was the ruler of the pugilistic world. Whoosh! With a whoosh sound, the man and the crane directly flew over Tiannan City's sky. The hurricane caused the flags on top of Tiannan City's city walls to flutter in the wind as they flew straight into the sky. Then, hundreds of giant cranes flew over, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. They flew in an extremely arrogant manner, completely looking down on everyone else as they whizzed past. General Wan directly sat on the ground. If it was not for the layer of fine cloth covering his body, it would have been a case of hitting a rock with an egg. Oh my God! Oh heaven earth! Just what did I do to provoke this group of ancestors? This time, the momentum is much bigger than the last time. Too much, too much. What should I do? What should I do? Wan Weian's face was pale as he muttered to himself. But the shock had not yet passed when another batch followed. Another batch. Yet another batch. Oh my God, there is no end. The nearly naked General Wan scowled miserably as he hurriedly ran into the backyard. I have to quickly send a message to the military headquarters. This. Oh my God. General Wan was horrified to find that the carrier pigeons and harriers that had been trained to send messages in the general's mansion for a long time were all foaming at the mouth and lying limp in their cages. They could only exhale but not inhale. Dozens of well-trained flying animals that were used for communication were actually crushed to death by this huge aura. Perhaps it should be said that he was scared to death. General Wan was dumbfounded and stood rooted to the ground. Along the way, the heartless, venerable Du Ju was leading dozens of experts from the great Golden City. These people were all top-notch experts. When they exerted their full strength, they were naturally as fast as a gust of wind. However, as he was advancing with all his strength, Du Ju's face suddenly changed. He waved his hand, and all the masters of the Supreme Golden City instantly understood and quickly hid in the mountains. Du Ju raised his head and looked into the distance. His face suddenly turned pale, and his mouth slightly opened, revealing a kind of inexplicable shock and even a little panic. This kind of loss of composure had not appeared on his face for many years. Everyone at the scene was quite surprised. However, before they had time to ask, everyone's expression changed almost at the same time, because the answer was self-evident. An unprecedentedly powerful and shocking aura descended. Everyone was shocked and looked up in succession. They saw a big crane flying across the sky in the distance. Then, there was a large flock of cranes that covered the sky. On the back of the white crane that was leading the flock, there was a slim figure in white who was unscrupulously exuding an arrogant aura. She stood proudly with a disdainful attitude. Venerable May, third crane rushing to the heavens, and a large flock of mysterious cranes. How is this possible? Du Ju almost lost his voice, and his face was dripping with cold sweat. He naturally saw the burly man on the back of the flock of cranes. He could not help but exclaim, "Where did these humanoid beast kings come from? I'm going to faint. Could it be that they have just been born? Oh my God, this is a big problem. If they really have so much combat power, how can the strength of this city be enough?" The heartless venerable Ju, who had always been cruel and indifferent, unexpectedly burst out a vulgar word. Moreover, he did not stop swearing. His face was twitching, and his saliva was flying everywhere. Obviously, he was shocked to the extreme. Before he finished complaining, there was another huge shock. Venerable Du's body swayed, and he almost fell to the ground. The experts from the great golden city behind him were all dumbfounded. This was because a large flock of rocks followed closely behind a flock of cranes. With an invincible aura, they broke through the sky full of clouds and smashed the white clouds in the sky. They flew over in an extremely domineering and arrogant manner. On the back of the rocks, with their eyesight, they could clearly see that there were strangely shaped burly men with ferocious eyes. They stood proudly against the wind and flew past like heavenly soldiers and generals. Then there was an overwhelming flock of cranes, flock of rocks, flock of eagles. Flock of eagles, flock of eagles. The elders in the Holy Lands burst out a large number of vulgarities. Moreover, it came from the mouths of these superior supreme experts with white hair and beards. All of them stared blankly at the sky with their eyes wide open, as if they were dried mummies. Oh my God, this is the power of Tion Fa that the city lord sent us to deal with this time? Are we having a nightmare? How can Tion Fa have such a terrifying number of combat power? Third city lord, facing such power, are we just sending ourselves to die? There are only 1, 2, 3, 40 to 50 people. Oh my God. The large number of flying Xian beasts in the sky had already flown away for a long time. The stench of blood still lingered on the ground. At this time, a superior supreme expert with triangular eyes shouted with strong shock and fear in his bones. He kept on swearing, I am really convinced. So many peak-level Xian beasts. They actually want us to go and destroy them. Are they asking us to die? Wave after wave of surprises surged towards him, causing the heartless venerable Ju to feel as if he was about to soar into the heavens. His cheeks twitched and the corners of his eyes twitched. He gritted his teeth and said, immediately send people back to Gold City and ask the city lord to send more people. This little amount of people is not enough. They don't even have the qualifications to fight. Even if the 3 Holy Lands send out all the combat power this time, it's just a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. It won't be of any help. Even if we send ourselves to die, it won't be enough. Ju stood up slowly and looked at a skinny old man beside him. Old Third Fong, your lightness skill is the best and your speed is also the fastest. Quickly return. Inform the city lord to send more people. We need at least 4 venerable level experts. He needed at least 30 more superior supreme martial artists. Quickly go. The skinny old Third Fong hurriedly agreed. He also knew that the situation was urgent and did not waste any time. His body stretched out and disappeared in an instant like a rabbit that had been shot by an arrow. Everyone, slow down and wait for reinforcements. We must not let Tion Fa's forces discover our existence. When the reinforcements arrive, we will attack Silver City in one go. Be careful. Ju's face darkened, and he gave the order without any hesitation. At the same time, the people from the Illusory Blood Sea also stopped and made the same decision. Jun Ci Bei of the elusive world of immortals also made the same decision with a pale face. At this moment, the experts of the 3 Holy Lands were completely stunned by the sudden eruption of Tion Fa Forest's terrifying power that was enough to shake the world. All of them were like ducks in a pond after being struck by lightning on a sunny day. Haze, the commotion from the Tion Fa Forest this time, had shaken the entire world. Countless forces were trembling as they made their own guesses, especially those who were on good terms with the Silver Blizzard City but hadn't gone to help. They were rejoicing. The heavens have blessed us. We're lucky that we didn't go. If we had gone, perhaps we would have become the feces of the Xian beasts. Looks like I really have foresight on a grassland. A seemingly illusory and unreal silhouette swept over. Suddenly, it stopped and slowly became real, revealing a skinny man dressed in black. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he looked at the group of profound beasts flying across the sky. A blood-red desire to fight suddenly surged in the depths of his eyes. The sword at his waist seemed to have sensed his strong desire to fight. As if it had a spirit, it suddenly let out a light clang and unsheathed half a foot. A cold light flashed like cold water in the winter. It shone faintly, cold and beautiful. It emitted a dreamy radiance, glistening under the setting sun. It was magnificent and indescribable. Autumn Dew Invincible Sword. My good comrade, now it's finally time for us to go all out again. Blizzard Silver City, Blizzard Silver City. I wonder how many people will be sacrificed to my sword this time. Snow Wind Supreme Martial Artist Han Feng Shui. I have wanted to fight with him for a long time. This time, let me fulfill this long-cherished wish of mine. This person gently stroked the hilt of his sword. His tone was gentle, but it carried a dense and cold, killing intent. The sword let out a light cry, and the blade trembled slightly. A stream of light flashed, and a trace of blood slowly flowed. The owner of the Autumn Dew Invincible Sword. Naturally, it could only be the supreme assassin, Chu Chi-Huan. The day you wave your sword in the wind and snow will be the day I unsheathe my sword in Blizzard Silver City. This was the promise that Chu Chi-Huan had made when he bid farewell to Jun Moxie. Chu Chi-Huan certainly remembered his promise, and he valued his promise even more. Moreover, the person who made him make such a promise was the only person in the world that he recognized, the King of Assassins. Therefore, the Supreme Assassin slowly turned around and headed towards the north. That was the direction of Blizzard Silver City. Chu Chi-Huan's movement technique was extremely fast, and in a short while, he had disappeared into the boundless grassland. Only that cold, killing intent remained in the air. Wind and thunder raged in the sky. One day later, Tianxiang City was also bustling with activity. Jun Moxie stood in the courtyard of the Jun family's residence, his face solemn and murderous, his eyes flashing with a bloody light. It should be. Today is the day. 5 days later, it would be the 2nd of February. In the warmth of spring, flowers blossomed, and a single sword strike broke through the Silver City. Solitary Eagle and Feng Wan-yun stood behind Jun Moxie. At this moment, they felt that this frail youth in front of them had turned into a towering mountain. His cold aura seemed to want to break through this frail body and soar into clouds. Jun Wuyi's face was solemn and serene. His eyebrows were like swords, and it seemed as if they would burst out of his forehead at any time. His body was calm and composed, and he commanded with the air of a great general. It was the blood-cloaked general who had led millions of troops across millions of miles of the continent, the one who swore never to return. But this time, he was not leading a human army, nor was it a secular charge. It was a higher-level battle. A decisive battle in Blizzard Silver City, a decisive battle at the peak of Blizzard Silver City. Jun Mo Xie was smart and resourceful, but he was also aware of his own limitations. He knew that he wasn't a commander who could lead an army into battle. But Jun Wui was, and he deserved it. Today is 5 chapters, asking for monthly votes. 5 chapters, 15,000 words. With a minimum of 2 chapters, 6,000 words, it could be said to be a super burst. Brothers, sisters, will the evil monarch's monthly votes be able to burst as well? After every burst, there would always be some trolls in the comment section. Let me say here, if you don't like this book, there's a red X on the top right of the webpage. As long as you know how to surf the internet, you will know what it means. I won't explain it here. Everyone, please conduct yourself with dignity. I have never opposed to reading pirated copies. Everyone has their own difficulties, I understand that. Because I also read pirated copies in the past, I know that feeling. So I won't force it. But after reading pirated copies, you still come to the comment section of the original book to scold people. I can't imagine how bad your quality is. You steal the fruits of others' labor with a clear conscience and still scold people. This behavior makes me speechless. Those who are familiar with me know that I am an author who must read book reviews every day. I used to leave a lot of comments when I read books. I also know the feeling of not being taken seriously or ignored. So, I always think that the comments in my comment section are the painstaking efforts of my brothers and sisters, and they hope that I can see them. I can accept them, so I can't ignore them. I can't ignore them either. I have said more than once that I am an author and also a reader. I understand everyone, and I understand everyone. Some of you must have noticed that some plots are quietly carried out according to some suggestions in the comment section. I did not ignore the wishes of my brothers and sisters. I respect you and value you, and I have already recognized you. Thank you for your suggestions for this book. When your suggestions are adopted by the books you like, that feeling is happy, it is happy, and it is a sense of accomplishment. So, I hope I can make you happier. So, every day, I bear the abuse in the comments section, looking for your comments, looking for the wishes of my brothers and sisters. This is my persistence and also my pride. Maybe some people will say that I am stupid, but I have never regretted it. Thank you, everyone. I am still me. I will still be like this. Chapter 667. Such a large-scale battle could only be commanded by an absolute commander like Junwoo Yi. Only then would he be able to make the best use of his talents. And he would be able to make the best use of his resources. It was a perfect match. The Dongfang family's 120 men were lined up neatly under the leadership of Dongfang's 3 swords. On the other side, Sikong and Yi was leading 30 experts of the Sikong clan. Their faces were solemn and respectful. Beside him, Duanmu Chao Fan was dressed in black. His face was cold and stiff. He was leading 3 of the Duanmu family's top experts. These 2 families had immediately sent their experts to support the Jun family after hearing about the Jun family's actions. Mu Shuetong's face was full of excitement as he stood to one side with Han Yinmeng. This day has finally come. Xiao family, your doomsday has finally come. This was the Jun family's current lineup. Dongfang when Xian walked out slowly with a mournful look on her face. Guanqing Han, dressed in white and holding a long sword, quietly supported her from the side. This was a journey for revenge. Dongfang when Xian had to be present. Jun Zhantian looked at the experts in the courtyard and couldn't help but feel relieved. He stroked his beard and smiled. The rise of the Jun family will be in this battle. It will surely shock the world. The 4 seas will be shocked. This was something that Grandpa Jun had long since understood. However, this time, Grandpa Jun would not personally go. Grandpa Jun's status was still there. Although he wished to kill his enemy, he was still an elder. Revenge for his sons, Junwoo Hui and Junwoo Meng, was a matter for his grandson and son. If Grandpa Jun went personally, it wouldn't look good. Therefore, Jun Zhantian stayed behind to guard the capital. For his son and grandson, he would be able to manage a great rear without any worries. Together with him were the Heaven Destroyer and Spirit Devourer troops, as well as Bailey Luo Yun and Lung Ao's assassination team. In the current Tianxiang city, these forces were enough to intimidate everyone. Dugu Xiaoi had also been left behind to guard the Jun family's residence. When she heard this, the little girl was so anxious that she jumped up and down. She wanted to go with them no matter what, but she was stopped by Jun Moxie's words. If you want to enter my Jun family, then you must first be obedient. What was the point of marrying a disobedient wife? Are you going to stay behind, or must you follow? The choice is yours. The little girl naturally knew how to choose. She agreed with an aggrieved expression, but her heart was filled with endless joy. Wow, I'm about to enter the door. It wasn't that Jun Moxie didn't want her to go, but this mission wouldn't be as easy as she had imagined. He was afraid that his life would be in danger at every moment. Dugu Xiaoi followed closely behind. In the midst of a battle of millions of experts, her meager cultivation base was simply not enough. Even the slightest aftershock would be enough to send her to her death. Letting Dongfang when Xian and Guanqing Han follow was already the biggest concession that Jun Moxie had made. If it weren't for the fact that Dongfang when Xian needed someone to take care of her, he wouldn't even have agreed to let Guanqing Han go. Not only did Mei Shuiyin have to participate in the battle, but she also had to take care of the overall situation. No matter what, she couldn't be the first choice to take care of others. The sun gradually moved to the west, and it was already afternoon. Dongfang Wenqing quietly approached Jun Moxie. Xia, is this all we have? Where's your wife? Isn't she going to participate in such an important mission? Uncle Dongfang was a little worried. Based on their current strength, it could be said that they were strong enough. But when it came to fighting against Blizzard Silver City, he didn't dare to say that he had the confidence to do so. After all, the other party was a super aristocratic family, not an ordinary family. So he naturally thought of Mei Shuyan, who had accompanied Jun Moxie to the Dongfang family last time. She was a real expert, a top expert. Why didn't he see her this time? Soon, she'll be back soon. Jun Moxie smiled faintly. Uncle, this time I'll let you see what the real all-Shin beast come out from Tian Fa means. The oath of the Dongfang family will become history after this mission. The real all-Shin beast come out from Tian Fa? What does that mean? Dongfang Wenqing was a little puzzled. Was there a difference between the real and the fake? At this moment, everyone suddenly felt their eyes darken. The warm sun that was originally shining in the sky suddenly disappeared. From the southwest, a large patch of dark clouds suddenly rose, covering the sky and covering the sun. It actually blocked out all the sunlight. The originally warm weather of Tianxiang City, which was immersed in the rare warm weather of a harsh winter, was suddenly blown by a gale, and sand and stones were flying. What's wrong? What's going on? What's going on? Almost everyone felt the sudden pressure and looked at the sky in surprise. Only Jun Moxie's mouth revealed a trace of a sincere smile. He looked at the distant sky, and his face was full of a bright smile. Woo! A deep, long, and domineering bird's cry suddenly resounded in the sky. Roar! It sounded like millions of people were roaring at the same time, and it sounded like 10 years of thunder had gathered at the same time on the same day. This kind of earth-shattering cry caused more than 99% of the people in Tianxiang City to temporarily lose their hearing. Even a top-notch expert like Dongfang Wenqing was greatly startled by this sudden change. He felt as if his mind was going to explode, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. It was only at this moment that everyone realized that the dark clouds in the sky were actually a large group of cranes. The ferocious aura and the huge size of the cranes were all reminding everyone that these cranes were all peak level 9 Shin beasts. Dongfang Wenqing and the rest looked at the sky with their mouths agape, and their brains short-circuited. It was not only her. Everyone else had the same expression. In addition to the solitary falcon, even Grandpa Jun's face was filled with astonishment. On the head of the snow-white crane, there was a figure standing proudly against the wind. She was dressed in snow-white clothes, and her face was extremely charming. Her figure was graceful, and her black hair danced in the wind. Her figure was graceful, and her lips were full of smiles. Her eyes were like limpid autumn waters as she looked at Jun Moxie. Who else could it be but Mei Shuyan? Before this, none of them knew of Mei Shuyan's true identity. Now that they saw her appear in such a shocking manner, they could not help but be shocked. The dark clouds in the sky became thicker and thicker. It was the 1,500 flying Shin beasts circling above the Jun family's residence. The sandstorm that brought with them suddenly blew over. In an instant, every household in Tianxiang City was covered in dust. Du Xiaoyi and Han Yinmeng looked at Mei Shuyan in the sky. The two little lowless eyes were filled with endless envy and amazement. Sister Shuiyin is really too handsome, too beautiful. When can I be like her? With a whoosh, Mei Shuyan jumped down from the sky like a fairy. Long Crane also did a somersault in the air and turned into his human form, jumping down as well. Jun Xia laughed heartily. He took 2 steps forward, opened his arms, and was about to embrace a soft and fragrant body. But Mei Shuyan's skin was already very thin. Furthermore, with so many subordinates watching, how could she let him hug her? If she was really hugged by him, where would the face of Tian Fa's boss go? However, the young Master June didn't manage to catch anything in his arms. Instead, it landed right beside the young Master June. She first greeted Grandpa June, then walked to Dongfang Wenxin. Before she spoke, her face was already red. "Mother, I'm back. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back, huh?" Dongfang Wenxin looked at her daughter-in-law with a smile. She held her daughter-in-law's hand as if she couldn't bear to let go. The shock in her heart had long been replaced by the joy of Mei Shuyan's return. Good heavens, the Xian beasts are really coming out of Tian Fa. Dongfang Wenxin's mouth was wide open as he looked at the huge army of Xian beasts in front of him. He pulled on his nephew's sleeves and said, "Good nephew, what is the identity of this woman of yours? Why is there such a big show? Do you think you can subdue such a woman?" At this moment, Uncle Dongfang was really shocked. How powerful must she be to be able to control more than 10 million Xian beasts at the peak of level 9? At this moment, Uncle Dongfang's brain had completely short-circuited. Dongfang Wenjian and Dongfang Wendao also came over, insisting on listening to their nephew's explanation. This was too shocking. I've already explained it so clearly. Don't you understand? June Moxie sighed helplessly. Can't you see that she is Venerable Mei? After that, Jun Daxiao walked towards Mei Shuyan with a face full of joy. Only his 3 uncles behind him were left with a face full of shock. "Venerable Mei, oh my God, our niece-in-law is Venerable Mei. It's actually her." Dongfang Wenxing's mouth was wide open, like a hippopotamus dying of thirst. She turned her head with difficulty and looked at her 2 younger brothers. I didn't hear wrongly, did I?" Dongfang Wenjian and Dongfang Wendao swallowed their saliva with difficulty. Their eyes were still staring blankly, unable to say a word. On the other side, Mei Shuyan finally finished her greetings. She turned around and shouted, "Everyone come down!" Instantly, the sky above was filled with noises of agreement. Countless burly men in brides' clothes jumped down. For a moment, the sky was dyed red with blood. At this moment, Jun Moxie rushed up like an arrow. While Mei Shuyan was commanding the Xian beasts, he launched a surprise attack and hugged her. He only felt a soft body in his arms, exuding a rich fragrance. He couldn't help but be intoxicated, and his whole body was intoxicated. Mei Shuyan was about to struggle, but she felt a warm itch on her ear. A big mouth was sucking on her jade-like earlobe. A warm voice was transmitted from her ear into her heart. "You're finally back. I missed you so much these days." Mei Shuyan's body instantly turned soft. She suddenly felt her whole body go limp. She lost all strength to struggle. She could only let him hug her in his arms. Her face was red as if it was dyed with rouge. She looked even more beautiful than before. The sound of someone choking on their food rang out in the air. The red-robed men were all dumbfounded as they looked at their boss in June Mosia's arms. Their eyes were blank, and they fell to the ground like dumplings. Other than Big Bear and a few other Beast Kings, all of them were in a sorry state, baring their fangs in pain. This situation was too impactful. Chapter 668. We didn't even dare to look at her in the Tian Fa forest. We didn't even dare to raise our heads to talk to her. But now, this human youngster is holding her in his arms. Moreover, he has a blissful and adorable look on his face. Such an unimaginable scene had happened right before their eyes, causing these simple-minded mystical beasts who had just transformed to lose all of their abilities. They had wanted to show off their skills, but in the end, they lost all of their consciousness and plummeted to the ground. Then, plop, plop, many of the 9th level peak flying Xian beasts who hadn't taken human form, yet felt dizzy when they saw this. So, they closed their eyes and fell to the ground. The June residents shook for a moment. The rumbling sounds were like firecrackers during the spring festival. Dust rose to the sky, and countless feathers of different colors were flying in all directions. Those that were lucky enough to not fall were also swaying in the air, struggling to stay in the air. Their 2 wings were fiercely flapping, but there was no pattern to it at all. Naturally, because of this, there were gusts of hurricanes, and the hurricanes were coming from all directions. It was a marvelous sight. After a long time, everyone finally woke up from the shock. Bear Mountain, Earthcracker, and the others were furious. They thought that these guys had lost the face of the Tion Fa forest in front of so many people. So, they rushed up with black faces and kicked them. Then they scolded loudly. A bunch of useless things. How can you be stunned by such a small movement? Hurry up and come see our brother-in-law. Earthcracker was even more ferocious in his kicks. In fact, he had passed on the same words that Big Bear had used to curse him to his subordinates. You bunch of country bumpkins haven't seen the market yet. Dog meat can't even be served on a proper banquet. Why don't you learn from my elegant, natural, and calm demeanor? The Shin Beast Kings arrived in front of Jun Moxie and Mei Shuiyin after they finished scolding them. They smiled flatteringly and said, Brother-in-law, brother-in-law, while everyone is good, brother-in-law has a gift for you. Jun Mo Xia was delighted in his heart. After being called brother-in-law, he felt his bones lighten by a few taels. However, he couldn't help but be startled when he counted them. He thought to himself, good heavens, so many brothers-in-law, and all of them are burly and not easy to deal with. If a couple were to fight in the future, wouldn't this bunch of fellows pull one's hand? Jun Moxie waved his hand, and the servants of the Jun family immediately brought out sets of embroidered robes from the inside to the outside. Every collar of the robe was custom-made and was of the largest size. Fortunately, it was the largest size. When worn by this group of burly men, it actually fit exceptionally well. Almost all of them were over 2 meters tall. They were simply too muscular. In fact, Jun Moxie was a little envious. However, this group of fellows were a little too careless. Some of them stared blankly and threw the clothes on the ground as soon as they received them. Then, with a swoosh, they took off all their clothes. The red cloth was wrapped around their bodies, so it was naturally very convenient to take it off. With a swoosh, their hairy bodies and thick thighs were revealed. They grinned with happiness on their faces and were about to grab the clothes and put them on. After living for so many years, we're finally able to wear clothes, Duga Xiaoi and Han Yinmeng screamed, and turned around to cover their faces. Mei Shuiyin's face immediately darkened, and she looked at Long Crane with an unfriendly expression. Bastard, who told you to take off your clothes? Long Crane was flustered and exasperated. He raised his long legs and kicked the buttocks of those people. How immoral. You're a disgrace to Tion Fa. Those who were kicked covered their buttocks and gritted their teeth, but they didn't dare to cry out in pain. They blinked innocently, and their faces were full of innocence and confusion. How were they supposed to wear clothes if they didn't take off their clothes? Long Crane's kicks were merciless, and the pain penetrated deep into their bones. Jun Mo Xia held back his laughter. Then he grabbed a bald man and taught him how to put on clothes. His attitude was very amiable. Yes, lift your feet, stretch them out one by one, put them on, stretch your legs, yes, lift them up, don't use too much force, don't tear them. Next, tie them up. Then this is the underpants, remember, tie them tight. This is the trousers, lift your feet, stretch your legs, yes, no. You have to first stretch out one arm for the jacket, ah? Don't stretch out the right arm first stretch out the left arm. Yes, how clever. As for the outer robe, do the same, right tie the belt. Jun Moxie took a few steps back and looked at this Shin beast that he had personally dressed up. He gave a thumbs up and said, really burly. This guy smiled embarrassedly, pulling here and there with his thick fingers. He turned around and looked at the back of his buttocks, just like how he looked at his buttocks and tail before he transformed. Only then did he open his mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth, and smiled honestly. Thank you, brother-in-law. He, brother-in-law, you're a good person. I like you. Jun Moxie was overjoyed. Long Crane had already called down a group of flying Shin beasts and used his wings to form a large circle. A few hundred men took off their bridal clothes and changed into new clothes in this circle. Taking advantage of this time, Jun Moxie roughly explained the strategy and tactics that he had prepared earlier to Mei Shuiyin. Mei Shuiyin agreed without hesitation. Then she called Jun Wui and Jun Moxie over and faced the Shin beasts. This battle will be commanded by Jun Wui, third Master Jun. His orders are my orders. Whoever dares to disobey will will be punished according to the family's rules. All of them kept quiet out of fear. Not a single sound was heard. Then, Mei Xian frowned slightly and said to Jun Moxie, "On the way here, I seem to have seen people from the 3 holy lands moving out in large numbers. They were afraid of delaying the journey, so they did not pay attention to them. This time, we're going out on a large scale. Although the momentum is great, but we're also empty inside if by any chance." Jun Moxie frowned and thought for a long time, then said, "In your opinion, would the 3 holy lands dare to directly destroy the Jun family while we are not in Tianxiang? Do they have the guts to face the endless revenge from our team and my mysterious master who hides in the dark and kills us?" Mei Xian laughed. "Absolutely not. The 3 holy lands are riding a tiger. It is difficult to get off. If they do not get rid of your master first, they will not dare to touch the Jun family. After all, if such an expert hides in the dark and causes destruction, even a venerable expert would not be able to escape the fate of death. This is a level that can easily shake the foundation of the 3 holy lands. They are all astute and astute. Each one of them wants to use the smallest price to obtain the greatest benefit. How could they do such a risky thing?" Jun Moxie smiled and said, "That's right." Saying that, he turned around and spoke to Grandpa Jun for a while. Grandpa Jun nodded repeatedly, understanding tacitly and beaming with joy. After everything was said and done, the Jun family's temple seemed to be too small to accommodate so many great Buddhas. Under Jun Moxie's command, everyone boarded the back of the flying Xian beasts and immediately got ready to set off. Jun Moxie wanted to join the group of beauties, but Mei Xian kicked him out. Then, she considerately helped Dongfang when Xian and Guan Qinghan to get on the back of the 3rd crane. Long Crane's huge red eyes blinked, and he wanted to cry, but had no tears. "Everyone else is carrying 1 person, but I have 3. Bear Mountain was quite generous, and he beamed with joy as he said, "Brother-in-law, come to my side. We 2 brothers will sit together. It is convenient." The Xian beast crane under him couldn't help but roll its eyes. "4th brother bear, is it not enough for you to be my brother? Don't make trouble. You're already much heavier than the 3 people on 3rd brother's back combined. It's already very strenuous for me to carry you. If there's really another one, little brother will be in an air crash at any time. Help!" Jun Moxie heard Bear King's call, and just as he was about to go over, a large eagle suddenly appeared in front of him. It was Eagle King, and he called out flatteringly, "Brother-in-law, please come on. Please come on me." Jun Moxie couldn't help but feel a chill. What kind of words are these? Come on me? Please come on me? My taste is not that strong. Not to mention that you are a male. Even if you are a female, I'm not that thirsty. Look at your black hair. Jun Dashao's mouth and eyes were crooked, as if he had been struck by lightning, and he thanked him with great entanglement, and then jumped on. In the end, I still have to go on. I cannot go on. The Eagle King has already invited me, and he is still eagerly looking at me. How can I not go on? I have to brace myself and go on. But this is not the same as that. Not to mention, as soon as I got on, it was really comfortable, really worthy of being called Eagle King, really extraordinary. One word, cool. Immediately after, the group of people gathered at the Jun family's residence all got on the back of the Xian beasts, one after another. This time, there were quite a lot of flying-type Xian beasts that had come to Tianxiang, and even if these people were to ride 1 each, there would still be a lot of space left. The little princess of the Silver Blizzard City bid farewell to her close friend Dugu Xiaoi and excitedly climbed on the back of a large crane. Although Han Yinmeng was born in a super aristocratic family and had seen many things, it was still the first time that she was flying in the sky like this. The little girl was extremely excited when she thought about the journey in the sky later on. She took out a colorful candy from her bosom and peeled it. Then, she brought it to the mouth of the big crane under her in a fawning manner. She wanted to improve their relationship, but the big crane glared at her with its bloodshot eyes. It was as if it was a fiend, and the little girl was so scared that she almost fell down. Dugu Xiaoi looked at Han Yinmeng on the back of the crane with great admiration, and her small mouth flattened. Looking like she was about to cry, I also want to sit on a large bird and fly in the sky. Ooh. Then the little girl rolled her eyes. Humph, brother Emo. Sia said, I am about to enter the door. I have to be more dignified. I have to have the bearing of a lady. Little girl Han is still too early. Even if she manages to sneak in the future, she will only be a concubine. Not as old as me. Humph, humph. With a long cry. Long Crane was the first to flap his wings and fly into the sky, the dust on the ground flying everywhere. Mei Shuyin smiled lightly, and a thick protective shield automatically formed around her, blocking the incoming wind. With Venerable Mei personally protecting Dongfang when Xian and Guanqing Han. Even if the wind was several times stronger, the two's hair would not flutter in the slightest. The group of people gradually rose into the sky. After hovering in the air for a moment, they reorganized their formation and rushed towards the north in a majestic manner, straight to their destination, Blizzard's Silver City. Grandpa June was lost in thought as he stared at the clouds of dust that had yet to dissipate. After a long while, he let out a soft sigh and slowly walked into the ancestral hall. Looking at the memorial tablets of his 2 sons and 2 grandsons, he muttered, Wu Hui, Wu Ming, Mo Mo Cho, may your souls not be far away. Your debt of blood has finally arrived. Today is the second half of the night. Rest, adjust, and continue tomorrow. Well, that was what I wanted to say, but I forgot about the last chapter. In the end, I saw a comment from a guy named Richard Chun in the book review section. I know what you want to say. You said, keep on blowing up. Chapter 669. Today's outbreak. The first update is coming. The old man stood there quietly, motionless for a long time. The corners of his mouth curled into an indescribable bitter smile. But when he thought his grandson, Jun Mo Xie, he smiled proudly. He remembered what his grandson had told him before he left. Grandpa, our Jun family is going to attack the Silver Blizzard City. After we leave, the Jun family's headquarters will be empty. But the whole world knows that my master is in the Jun family. There are not many who would dare to act rashly. And the only ones who would dare to do anything are the forces of the 3 Holy Lands. You have to be mentally prepared for this. But Grandpa, you don't need to worry too much. I believe that even if the 3 Holy Lands really want to take action, they will inevitably have some misgivings. So, they will use all kinds of methods to test the Jun family's reaction. Grandpa, with your experience, it should not be a problem to deal with them. If they don't come, then it's fine. But if they come, you must show your strength. The stronger the better. You must not show weakness to the enemy. No matter what before Shui Yan and I die. And most importantly, before my master shows up, even if all the people from the 3 Holy Lands gather in front of you, they will not dare to touch a single hair on your head. But if we show weakness, they will think that we have a guilty conscience and will no longer have any misgivings. I think you should know this. Don't be afraid of being arrogant. Don't be afraid of being domineering. Just deal with it as you see fit. I believe that you can do it. As long as you hold on until we come back, everything will be over. This was what Jun Moxie said to Grandpa Jun after a long time of thinking after hearing Mei Shuiyan's words. Similarly, the arrival of such a terrifying number of Xian beasts in Tianxiang City had caused the imperial family to feel inexplicably terrified. Although these Xian beasts only stayed for a short while after they arrived, the commotion caused by them did not dissipate for several months. Everyone clearly knew that the rumors of Jun Moxie and Tian Fa's #1 king, Venerable Mei, falling in love with each other was not groundless. It was a fact. If they wanted to touch the Jun family, then they would have to face the terrifying power of the entire Tian Fa forest. With such terrifying strength, who could afford to offend him? Even the 3 Holy Lands would have to think twice, right? It could be said that His Majesty had suffered greatly during this period of time. First, Jun Moxie openly executed his most capable subordinate in front of the imperial palace for 10 days. However, he, the mastermind behind the scenes, did not even dare to make a sound. This was something that would make people die of grievance. Who knew that Jun Moxie would bury his empress together with Yi Gahan? This was a well-deserved conclusion. This was tantamount to putting on a green hat that he could never take off, an eternal cuckold. Too green. After being humiliated twice in a row, the Emperor of Tianxiang almost collapsed. But when Jun Moxie was doing these two things, he didn't mention him at all. Not even a word about being implicated was mentioned. Although the entire world knew that Jun Moxie was wantonly humiliating the Emperor of Tianxiang, but no one said anything openly. Even if there was, no one would dare to say it. Was he tired of living? The Jun family's young master Jun had slaughtered people with a glare. No, he wasn't just slaughtering people anymore. He was cutting people into pieces. Every time he cut 100 people into pieces, who would complain about having a long life? This made the emperor feel like his heart was being fried, but he couldn't say it out loud. He couldn't possibly stand out and say, Jun Moxie is targeting me. Wouldn't that be putting a bucket of sh*t on his head? Humiliating himself? If he didn't say anything, although the entire world knew this was the case, it could be treated as a rumor. But once he said something, it would be the same as confirming it. There would be no room for negotiation. It was as if the whole world was watching a mute person suffering from bitterness. The ruler of a country who could not say anything these few days. He had been thinking that if Jun Moxie went to Blizzard Silver City to seek revenge, he would go all out and secretly send people to dismantle the Tomb of the Lovers. By then, the rice would be cooked. He believed that even if Jun Moxie came back, he would not be able to do anything to him. But he didn't expect that before Jun Moxie could make a move, there would be someone even more ruthless. That was a tyrannical existence that even the three holy lands did not dare to go against. Tian Fa Forest. Oh heavens! Oh earth! Are you still going to let me live? This discovery made His Majesty feel extremely aggrieved, and he canceled this plan. If he only provoked Jun Dashao, as long as Grandpa Jun was around, he believed that the old man would not sit by and watch his grandson commit regicide. Even if it was a little more humiliating, the Tianxiang Empire would still belong to the Yang family. But if he provoked the Tian Fa Forest, there would not only be a problem for the Tianxiang imperial family, but the entire Tianxiang Empire would be erased. Therefore, even though the emperor was furious, he didn't dare to make any rash moves. Every day, he would explode with anger, to the point that he was about to vomit blood, but he could not let out a single bit of anger. There was really no room for him to vent his anger. Just as the storm caused by the Xian beasts in Tianxiang City had yet to subside, 3 groups of people from 3 different directions quietly entered Tianxiang City one after another. One of the groups was led by a young man dressed in green robes. He was tall, elegant, and had an extraordinary aura. His face was like jade, and his lips were like vermilion. His movements were natural and unrestrained. But at this time, he was looking at the familiar scenery of Tianxiang City with a bitter smile on his face. I've returned to Tianxiang City again. It wasn't easy for me to leave this place, but I've only been separated for such a short period of time, and I've already been sent back. I still have to face the strongest opponent that I don't want to face the most, the enemy that I fear the most. Although he's also the opponent that I desire the most. Jun Moxie, if you're not in Tianxiang, even if I win, what meaning would there be? This person was Li Yuran. Jun Moxie climbed onto the Eagle King's back and headed north at high speed. Jun Moxie finally realized how far Tianxiang was from the Silver Blizzard City. Even these flying Xian beasts would need at least 2 days to cover a distance of 10,000 li in a day at their full speed. If one were to include the time taken for everyone to eat and rest, then even with such a high speed, it would take at least 3 days. The distance of the Silver Blizzard City could be seen from this. Jun Moxie couldn't help but look at his third uncle enviously. What a blessing, finding a wife so far away. Even if the two of them fight to the point of divorce, the wife's family wouldn't know anything and would still think that the two of them are making out, unlike me, who is surrounded by hundreds of younger brothers-in-law. After flying at high speed for an entire afternoon, everyone was already far away from Tianxiang City. At this moment, it was already dusk. They finally landed on a boundless prairie and temporarily settled down. The sky was blue and the wilderness was boundless. Although it was a harsh winter and they couldn't see the waves in the grass, they could still feel the unique vastness of the prairie from the bottom of their hearts. All they could see was the boundless horizon. This prairie seemed to be connected to the end of the world and even to the stars. One could only imagine the scenery if one were to come here in the middle of summer. They lit a bonfire and set up tents. Everyone was already prepared and had brought their own rations with them. After eating, they gathered in groups of 3 to 5 and talked loudly. This was especially so for those beast kings who had just transformed into human form. More than 10 of them gathered together in high spirits. Actually, these beast kings had only just transformed, so they were still not proficient in speaking. Often, they would jump out with a few roars from their original bodies, or they would talk in a completely unrelated manner. However, they would never get tired of it and were enjoying themselves. On the other hand, Guan Qinghan and Dongfang Wenxin were a little tired. The two of them had the weakest cultivation in this trip and were even weaker than the little princess of the Silver Blizzard City, Han Yanmeng. Moreover, it was their first time being thousands of feet above the ground. Although they had Mei Shuiyan's protection, it was still difficult for them to adapt to the journey. It was inevitable that they would be tired, and so they rested early with Han Yanmeng and the others. It was late at night, and even the 3 brothers of the Dongfang family were snoring early. However, Jun Moxie, Mei Shuiyan, Jun Wui, Solitary Eagle, and Feng Wanyin were not sleepy at all. They were about to attack the Silver City, and Jun Wui was especially excited, like the waves of the sea. Naturally, it was difficult for him to sleep. Jun Moxie, on the other hand, had the mysterious art of creation with him, so he did not feel sleepy at all. Mei Shuiyan was the chief supervisor, so naturally, she could not be careless. Moreover, her cultivation was profound, so even if she did not sleep for 8 to 10 days, it would not be a problem. Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyin were both battle maniacs. Seeing that the battle was imminent, their blood was boiling, and they could not sleep at all. The 5 of them walked together on the prairie, feeling the soft grass under their feet rustling from time to time. In the distance, the bonfires burned so brightly that half of the sky was illuminated. Under the vast sky, they felt a kind of tranquility that touched their souls. Mei Shuiyan was the first to break the silence. She looked at Jun Moxie with a smile and said softly, "Ever since the last time, I felt that you had a lot of questions to ask, but I did not let you ask them. Now you can ask them." Solitary Eagle and the rest looked at Jun Moxie in surprise. Jun Moxie smiled and said bluntly, "You are right. In my heart, there are indeed a lot of questions that I want to ask you. I always wanted to ask, but I could not find a good opportunity. Now that you've let me ask, I do not know how to say it. It's okay. You can ask whatever you want. Everyone is here. I believe that they can answer your questions." Mei Shuiyan smiled sweetly and made fun of Jun Moxie. Everyone laughed, but they were interested in Jun Moxie's words. They found a place and sat in a circle. Jun Wui, who was the weakest among the 5, had reached the 4th level of Shunxian. Naturally, he was not afraid of the cold. He sat on the ground. Jun Mo Xie smiled and stretched out his arms. Facing the grassland, he said, "Actually, I'm afraid that my questions are very simple to you. For example, Old Ing and Fierce Windsor God are here. So, I won't beat around the bush, and I'll speak directly. Last night, I worked until 4 in the morning. Got up at 10 in the morning, edited word by word, and uploaded it. Early today, right? Haha. Yes, it was very happy at 4 in the morning. When I was tired of writing, I looked at QQ and found that the naughty little boy was online. He was eating like a little mouse. I heard that he was having dinner. I teased the little boy for a while. He actually wanted to take a screenshot to threaten me. Then, I bullied him again. He happily went offline to sleep. No dreams. Chapter 670. Jun Mo Xie paused for a moment, and then continued. Ever since I came to know about the existence of Xian Qi in this world, there have been 9 levels. Then, there are Silver Xian, Gold Xian, Jade Xian, Earth Xian, Sky Xian, Spirit Xian, and many other realms. At that time, they were called the Supreme Shun Xian, and that was the pinnacle of martial arts. At that time, almost everyone in the world agreed that the 8 great masters were the pinnacle experts of the world, and also the strongest martial artists of the human race. Mei Shuiyin plucked a stalk of grass and played with it in her hand. She said slowly, "You're right. From the point of view of the secular world, the 8 great masters are the so-called top experts, the strongest martial artists. This is not an exaggeration. However, as I gradually got to know Old Eagle, I learned from him that Shun Xian is actually different from the great masters, and that there is an even higher level above the great masters. It was from that day that I learned of the saying Shun Xian is a 12th level expert, one step at a time." Jun Moxie looked at Solitary Eagle. Solitary Eagle rubbed his nose, a little embarrassed. Bragging in front of Jun Moxie and bragging in front of Mei Shuiyin were 2 different feelings. Old Eagle felt that he had been betrayed by someone. Shun Xian is a 12th level expert, one step at a time. There is indeed such a saying, and it is not an exaggeration at all. If some great masters are stuck at the 5th level of Shun Xian, they may not be able to advance even if they spend their entire lives trying. It is very likely that they will not break through to the 6th level until they die of old age. First, every advancement requires the support of a huge amount of Xian Qi, and it also requires special opportunities. Not everyone can be like you, leaping forward like a monster. Mei Shuiyin said faintly. She lowered her head and didn't lift it, as if she was thinking about how to reply to Jun Moxie. After that, the Shuehun Manor appeared, and even the 3 Holy Lands appeared. Only then did I know that there was a realm above the Supremes. It turns out that the so-called pinnacle existences of this world, the 8 great Supremes, are still very far away from the pinnacle of martial arts. And then, when you appeared, there was actually an even higher realm, venerable. But the experts of the 3 Holy Lands that appeared after you actually numbered in the hundreds. This really makes me feel strange. Even if it was for the sake of the war for seizing the heavens, these people wouldn't remain unknown, right? In that case, the 8 great Supremes of the secular world, what can they amount to in these turbulent times? Jun Moxie furrowed his eyebrows and asked, "Other than that, are there other levels above the Venerable One? A higher level? If it really exists, then what is the true peak level of this world?" This question actually caused Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun to be extremely curious. These 2 people who had been obsessed with martial arts for their entire lives, how could they not be interested in such a question? The true peak level of this world? Mei Shuiyin took in a deep breath and raised her head. She smiled and said, "Looks like all of you are very curious. Originally, this topic was forbidden by the 3 Holy Lands and Tian Fa Forest, but now, since the 4 sides are already enemies, then I don't mind sharing it to clear your doubts." She was silent for a while, then said, "Actually, the lowest level of profound Qi, the 9th grade, was nothing more than a testing ceremony in the distant past. It was a method created by an extremely powerful person to test the cultivation talent of a disciple. Only from Silver Xian onwards can it be considered the official start. So, there has always been a saying that those below the 9th level are all ants. This saying, when traced back to its origins, can be considered to be reasonable. Because if one cannot break through to the 9th level of Xian Qi within a certain period of time, then even if one breaks through in the future, one's lifetime achievements will not be too high. And this period of time is naturally the shorter the better. The shorter the period, the higher your talent, and the greater your future achievements will be. From Silver Xian to Shun Xian, although the barriers between the realms are very strict, in reality, anyone can reach them. As long as one puts in the appropriate amount of effort and time, this path is not difficult. Because in this period of time, even if there are obstacles and bottlenecks, just the accumulation of time can be used to grind through them. As long as one has enough lifespan and unremitting effort, this process can also be said to be a process of cultivating one's character, or rather, a process of building one's foundation. Even if one reaches the level of Shun Xian level 4, one cannot be considered a true expert, Mei Shuiyan said lightly. Hearing Mei Shuiyan's words, Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyan looked at each other and smiled bitterly. The two of them had struggled their entire lives to barely reach the level of Shun Xian level 4, and then broke through to the supreme level with great difficulty. It had practically used up their entire lives. But now, from Mei Shuiyan's mouth, it was not considered a true expert, just a process of cultivating one's character and building one's foundation. With such a huge difference, if they still said that they were not disappointed, then they would not be lying, but lying to themselves. Only when one reaches the supreme level can one be considered to have truly stepped into the doorstep of a Xianqi expert, because only at this level can one sense the heavens and earth and form their own thoughts and unique fighting styles. Solitary Eagle, Feng Wanyan. Just like your fighting styles, one was born from an eagle, and the other was obsessed with the sword. But the real change should be after you broke through to the 5th level of Shun Xian level, that feeling of being able to move with ease. Mei Shuiyan looked at Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyan calmly. The two of them nodded their heads in agreement. These two were arrogant and unruly people, but in front of Mei Shuiyan, they were as obedient as primary school students, because the other party truly possessed a height and experience that they could not hope to reach. So, only when one reaches the supreme level can he truly establish his own sect and become a hero of an area. But it is only limited to one area. Mei Shuiyan's lips curled into a mocking smile. Also, the so-called supreme is just a rumor spread by the later generations. The real name should be knowledge. A few years ago, it was said that only when one reaches this level can one be considered to know and touch a little bit of the supreme level, stepping into the starting point of being a strong expert, truly having a direction in one's heart, a starting point, that's all. But as the later generations passed it down step by step, not only did knowledge become the peak of the mortal world, but it also slowly evolved into supreme. Haha, this is really hilarious. Supreme, that is the highest in the world. How could it be so easy? Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyan finally could not help but blush, feeling extremely ashamed. Although Mei Shuiyan was not talking about them, they still felt their faces burning, as if someone had slapped them harshly. There was an indescribable feeling in their hearts. Every time I come out, I always hear people talking about how Xian is in the pugilistic world, and I always find it funny. How can a mere silver Xian, Yu Xian, be worthy of being called a Xian? This is really preposterous and laughable. The biggest joke in the world. Mei Shuiyan smiled slightly and said, since ancient times, the ranks of the strong in Xianqi have always been differentiated by the word Xian. I've said it before, only those who have reached the supreme level can be called Xian. Not only today, I've said it many times in the past. These words are not just my own words, but the real distinction of ranks since ancient times. Only those who are above the supreme level can be called Xian, Qi experts. Only then can they be called Xian. Mei Shuiyan smiled faintly and said, Shun Xian is at the 12th grade, starting from the 5th grade knowledge supremacy, and only then can one be called Xian. The 8th grade is considered the first step. This place is basically the same, but there are some differences, so there's no clear division, because the real ranks start from the 12th grade. So this level is called above the knowledge supremacy, which means that it is a step further than just knowing. But only those who have broken through the 12th grade of Xinxian are called venerables. Then, how are the venerables divided? This question was not asked by Jun Moxie. It was asked by Feng Wanyan. Mei Shuiyan's words today had finally resolved a common doubt in their hearts. Venerables are divided into 4 levels. Every increase in the venerables level is accompanied by a cleansing of the meridians and marrow, and there are many inner demons in between. If one is not careful, they will face the tragic situation of turning into smoke, and not even their bones will be left. The degree of danger involved is hard to describe. Furthermore, Every increase in level will cause a corresponding change in the heavens and earth. For example, the transition from the first to the second level is the tribulation of the inner demons. This is the simplest and easier to pass. As long as one can resist the biggest temptation in their heart, they can easily advance. Even if they fail, they will only suffer from chi deviation and lose all their xian cultivation, but their lives can still be saved. Solitary Eagle and Foam One Yun sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. The first transition of the Venerables was actually the invasion of the inner demons that they feared the most. This was a huge matter that concerned their entire life's cultivation. Furthermore, Mei Xuyan actually said that this was the simplest, easiest to pass. And the breakthrough from the second to the third level is the 7 emotions purgatory, the burning heart. At that time, the heart will be filled with the 7 emotions of joy, anger, sorrow, fear, love, evil, and desire. All kinds of illusions will come one after another, and it will be difficult to deal with. Furthermore, from the start of the tribulation, one will clearly feel a strange fire burning oneself. Although it seems illusory, it is hard to say that it is not there. This kind of fire can be said to exist, but it can also be said to not exist. But once it starts burning, it can burn one into ashes. It will continue until the 7 emotions are over. Mei Xuyan looked at Jun Moxie with a complicated expression, wanting to say something but hesitating. Everyone felt their hearts beating rapidly, and they did not dare to breathe. Even Jun Daxiao was no exception. In his shock, Jun Moxie inadvertently noticed the strange expression on Mei Xuyan's face. He asked calmly, "What's wrong?" Mei Xuyan smiled faintly, concealing the blush on her face. That year, when I was injured, it was during the transition from the second to the third level. At that time, my brother was surrounded by hermitage and died a violent death. At that time, I was at a critical juncture in my cultivation. I had passed 6 out of the 7 emotions, and the burning heart was successfully contained. However, I was still lacking 1 level, and I could not break through completely. I was forcefully contained at the peak of the 2nd level, and could not advance any further. That level, Jun Moxie blurted out, and immediately realized. That's right, you don't have love. Without love, how can you talk about the 7 emotions? Chapter 671. Yes, I've never loved before, so I don't know what it's like. So, I've never been able to get past the 7 emotions. Mei Xuyan's face turned red, but she spoke it out calmly. At that time, I had no choice but to break out of seclusion and went straight to the hermitage to demand an explanation. We fought a great battle in the hermitage, and I fought with the lord of the hermitage, Missouri Wudao, for an entire day and night. Although we were evenly matched, the other party had the advantage in numbers, and it was our home ground, so I had no choice but to retreat. But on the way back, I was besieged by the 10 Great Supremes. At that time, I was exhausted from the battle, and my Xian cultivation was less than 80% of my peak. In addition, I was exhausted from the long battle, and I wasn't willing to be ruthless. So they finally succeeded, and I've been heavily injured to this day. That heavy injury almost caused me to be doomed eternally. Although I've been recuperating for many years, my injuries did not improve, and I could only barely suppress them. Until today, although I've recovered because of you, my strength has only reached the peak of the 2nd level, and it's still difficult for me to break through. After returning to Tian Fa, I thought of you day and night. Mei Xuyan's face turned red, but she still continued speaking bravely, because she knew that these were all experiences of breaking through. If she didn't explain it clearly, when the time comes, everyone here would inevitably go astray when they try to break through. I thought of you day and night, tossing and turning, unable to sleep, and finally understood that bone-deep feeling of yearning. Only then did I know what love is. That night, at that moment, I suddenly broke through the barrier of emotions and stepped into the 3rd level of the venerable realm. Mei Xuyan said it all in one go. Everyone looked at each other, feeling that this matter was very mysterious. For such a profound breakthrough to require such a unique opportunity, nothing could be more mysterious than this. Then, what exactly is your current comprehension of love? June Mosier's eyes turned as he asked with a smile. Mei Shuiyin smiled, but didn't answer. She naturally wouldn't ask such a question in public. However, there was a gentleness on her face. When she looked at June Moxie, there was a sense of longing and affection in her eyes. The tenderness in her eyes seemed to entangle June Moxie's heart. Although Mei Shuiyin didn't say it explicitly, June Moxie instantly understood. Mei Shuiyin's love was the kind of love that disregarded everything. I can change for you. I can ignore everything for you. I don't care about anything. I only want you. The only love. Actually, everyone could imagine how passionate and sincere the love that could support her to break through the barrier of the second level to the third level of the venerable realm must be. June Mo-Sia felt an inexplicable warmth in his heart. It was as if the ice in his heart had suddenly melted. He quietly stretched out his hand and held Mei Shuiyan's jade-like hand tightly. A rare gentleness flashed across Mei Shuiyan's face. She allowed her hand to be held by June Moxie, feeling the warmth of his palm. She smiled gently and said, "One more step, and the tribulation of the third level to the fourth level of the venerable realm will be related to the power of heaven and earth." June Moxie's body trembled as he suddenly thought of something. His eyes lit up as he asked, "Related to the power of heaven and earth? The power of thunder and lightning?" "That's right," Mei Shuiyin said solemnly. "From this level onward, one can be considered to have stepped into the world of the most powerful cultivators. But if one can't withstand it, then one's body will turn to dust, and one's soul will perish. And from this level onward, every breakthrough will be accompanied by a tribulation of thunder and lightning. Furthermore, the higher one's achievements and the stronger one's strength is, the more violent the lightning tribulation would be. I remember when a Saint King broke through, I heard that the lightning tribulation lasted for an entire day. More than half of the venerable and Saint Beast Kings who were protecting the Saint King died before they barely managed to hold on. As for the Saint King, he only had a single breath left." Saint level? June Moxie sharply picked out this word. "Yes, the saint level. Above the venerable is the saint level. It's also divided into 4 levels. It's just that it's still difficult for me to reach that level. In fact, I don't even dare to think about it. But it's said that every level of the saint level is 100 times harder than the venerable realm." Mei Shuiyin sighed and said with some sadness, "The 3 Holy Lands definitely have saint-level experts. Those people are all legendary figures who have participated in the previous war for seizing the heavens. Some of them have even witnessed the war for seizing the heavens twice. And the venerables and saints of our Tion Fa forest are trapped by the misty, illusory manners fog, guarding the 9 nether secret realm. If not for that, even if the 3 Holy Lands have 10,000 guts, how would they dare to make a move on me? So you're saying that the saint level is actually not the highest level?" June Moxie pondered and said slowly, "Yes, our previous Saint Kings successfully broke through the 4th level of the saint level and reached a new height, an unprecedented height." Mei Shuiyin revealed a look of respect and said, "And as far as I know, there's no one in the world with a higher cultivation than him. Maybe the misty mansion and the 9 nether mystery realm have such people, but they still don't appear in this world. That is to say, the Saint King is also not the highest level." June Moxie's voice was very firm. He said in a calm voice, "Above the Saint King, there might be many higher levels. I'm sure of this. But, to us, it's something very, very far away." Everyone looked at each other in shock. Only Mei Shuiyin nodded and said in agreement, "I didn't expect you to say this." It's said that after the Saint King broke through, he left behind a sentence. It's similar to what you just said. "What sentence?" Everyone asked hurriedly. "I didn't expect that we'll finally start today." That's what the Saint King said back then. Mei Shuiyin slowly said this sentence, but after everyone heard it, They fell into a state of speechlessness at the same time. The Saint King level was just the beginning. What kind of nonsense was that? It just started. Then, what were the people sitting here now? Hee. The profound meaning of heaven and earth is endless. Why must you be so stubborn? Do you know how far that is from us? Amidst the silence, June Moxie suddenly laughed. He stretched out his hand and pointed at the brightest star in the sky. How far? It must be very far. Who can say for sure what's in the sky? Everyone rolled their eyes at him, thinking that June Dashao was trying to lighten the mood for everyone. Yes, it's really very far. I can guarantee that even the fastest flying Xian beast, who has maintained the fastest speed since birth without stopping for even a moment, may not be able to fly there even after 10,000 years. June Moxie smiled slightly and said in an earth-shattering tone, but I can also guarantee that someone has been to that place before. Someone has definitely been there, although the time is hard to determine. Everyone was shocked to the core. This time, even Mei Shuyan revealed a look of disbelief. Don't be so shocked. That person might not be from the Xian continent. Or it might be someone from some place that you don't know or have never heard of. June Moxie sighed and said, maybe you don't believe some of my words. But there are indeed people like that. They can lift the entire Xian continent with one hand. With a flick of their fingers, they can make the Xian continent disappear. These are not empty words. Regarding June Moxie's words, everyone thought that he was having a fever and was talking nonsense. June Moxie only smiled and did not try to explain further. After a while, he asked again, in this world, there are so many strong people. Then, why did supreme martial artists become the peak experts of this world? This is the question I want to know the most. Firstly, it's because of the restrictions of the war for seizing the heavens. The three holy lands are constantly selecting experts to enter the war for seizing the heavens. Secondly, after reaching the superior supreme level, there isn't much interest in the secular world. Third, after entering the three holy lands like you guys, Mei Shuyan looked at Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyan. Every one of you is unparalleled in this world, arrogant and domineering. But if you suddenly come to a place and realize that everyone's cultivation is higher than yours, and some experts can even fight 1,000 of you alone, what would you think? What would you do? Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyan looked at each other and said without hesitation, of course we would focus on cultivation. What's with always being stepped on by others? The moment this sentence left their mouths, both of them were enlightened. So that's how it is. As long as one had achieved a certain level of success, no one would be willing to be stepped on by others forever. This was especially true for experts like them who had once dominated the world. Even if they knew that those who were stepping on their heads were the so-called legends and miracles of the past, they would not be truly willing. Therefore, when they saw such a situation, once they felt how insignificant they were and how shallow their strength was, it was understandable that they would train harder in order to climb to the peak again. Once they fell into such a state of mind, how could they have the leisure to wander the martial world? They would be able to find countless opponents wherever they trained, and there was no need to worry about not having opponents. In fact, even if they didn't want to find someone, they would still want to find them. So the experts on the continent were basically extinct because of this. In the mundane world, only the supreme martial artist level was enough to rule the world. To put it bluntly, it was like the saying, when there's no tiger in the mountain, the monkey becomes the king. Of course, there's also the agreement of the three holy lands. Back then, the three great saints who had founded the three holy lands were all upright people with lofty ideals who had a heart for the world. They once said that those above the knowledge martial artist level were already beyond the boundaries of the mundane world and were naturally prohibited from participating in worldly disputes. Because once one reached the knowledge martial artist level, one person could basically deal with thousands of ordinary soldiers. Even if it was 1,000,000 soldiers, taking the head of a general would be as easy as flipping one's hand. The killing power they possessed was relatively terrifying, and if they acted recklessly, it was very likely that they would cause a catastrophe. In fact, those above the knowledge martial artist level were also human. If they were provoked, it was not impossible for them to do something as tragic as massacring the world. There were many precedents in history, so the three Holy Lands had the obligation to regulate the world. In recent years, although the three Holy Lands have become too competitive for power, fortunately, this principle has not changed. Chapter 672. And this principle is the supreme treaty of alliance. Once an expert above the spiritual supremacy level joins the battle, everyone can gang up on him. With these checks and balances, the world could be safe and sound. This is also one of the reasons why the experts do not show themselves in the world. Because even if they are strong, they can't guarantee that they won't be angered. If they get themselves killed because of this, it's not worth it. Mei Shui-yin sighed and said, "The three Holy Lands in the past were the real Holy Lands. They were independent and self-reliant, seeking blessings for the people. However, they themselves were extremely unknown and focused on resisting the foreign races. Even when the people of the Holy Lands came out, they were all humble and courteous, and they had a harmonious relationship with each other. However, the three Holy Lands of today are not worthy of the word holy. They only know how to fight for fame and power, and they even plan to dominate the world." She let out a deep sigh. The war for seizing the heavens is drawing near, but they are still planning to annihilate their former ally, Tianfa Forest, as their #1 priority. If the Nine Nether Secret Realm explodes now, then it will be the end of the world, and the end of the world will be in an instant. Then, I wonder who the extremely powerful person you mentioned is, the one who came up with the idea of using the 9th level Xianqi to test one's talent? This person is not simple. Jun Moxie furrowed his brows and asked. When Mei Shuyan talked about this person, she was a little evasive. She used the spring and autumn period style to gloss over it. But how sharp was Jun Moxie's insight? How could he let go of such an important person? The 9 levels of Xianqi in the Xianxian continent have been passed down for thousands of years, and this pioneering work was started by this person. So, what kind of earth-shattering talent was this legendary person? Mei Shuyan had a strange expression on her face. She hesitated for a while and said, "Speaking of which, the whole thing that happened in the last 10,000 years is really a farce, or a big joke. In fact, the Xianqi cultivation methods today were all passed down by that person. And this person was the ancestor of Xianqi in the entire Xianxian continent. Whether it's the 3 Holy Lands or the Tianfa Forest, all the cultivation methods are derived from this person's cultivation method. It can also be said that this person's cultivation method is the origin of Xianqi cultivation methods in the entire Xianxian continent." Mei Shuyan laughed bitterly and suddenly stopped. Her face revealed an expression of not knowing what to say. "Who is this person?" Jun Moxie's eyes flashed as he asked in a deep voice. "Nine Nether First Young Master." Mei Shuyan said with difficulty. "Nine Nether First Young Master." Judging from his name, this person should be from the 9 secluded secret land, right? Jun Moxie was also shocked. Never in their wildest dreams would they have imagined that the place that the misty mansion and Tianfa Forest were defending was actually the place where the Xianqi progenitor of the Xianxian continent resided. Yes, but on the other hand, the 9 secluded secret land was named after the 9 Nether First Young Master, not because the 9 Nether First Young Master originated from the 9 secluded secret land. As for the leader of the 9 secluded secret land, ever since the first 9 Nether First Young Master appeared in the world with this name, every generation has addressed themselves as 9 Nether XX Young Master. Until now, it should be the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters. Mei Shuyan's eyes were filled with fear. What? Ever since the Xianqi cultivation method was created, the Xianxian continent's history should be at least 10,000 years old, right? I believe that Xianqi cultivation method existed even before the war for seizing the heavens. But the 9 secluded secret land, which should be as old as Xianqi cultivation method, has only been passed down for 14 generations? How is this possible? Jun Moxie raised this question immediately and almost stood up. Not only him, Solitary Eagle and the rest were also shocked when they thought of this question. Not only that, the history of Xianxi and the Nine Secluded Secret Land is more than 10,000 years old. It's just that the inheritance of the Nine Nether bloodline is a little strange, and it can't be said that no one is qualified to comment on it. Mei Shuiyin said slowly, because the power of the Nine Nether bloodline is beyond anyone's imagination. Actually, a long time ago, Xianxi was not the only combat skill in this continent. It's just that year, the Nine Nether First Young Master was like a comet appearing out of nowhere. With unimaginable power, he conquered the entire continent in a very short period of time, becoming the only person in the history of the Xian continent to conquer the entire continent with his own power. After that, he forcefully abolished all the battle techniques and inheritances on the continent. He burned all the cultivation techniques and ancient books that were collected and passed down by countless factions and countries. He gathered hundreds of thousands of cultivators and used his supreme divine ability to make all those cultivators lose their battle memories in less than 10 years. From then on, other than Xianxi, there were no other skills that could be cultivated in the entire continent. Mei Shuiyin said in a tone that no one could tell what she was feeling. As soon as this was said, everyone was shocked to an indescribable level. That's too awesome. That's too awesome. Jun Moxie's eyes shone brightly as he sucked in a breath of cold air. This was the first time that Jun Daxiao was so shocked and looked up to someone like this. Facing such a strong person, one could only look up to him. Only look up to him, and look up to him until his neck hurt. Ever since Jun Moxie crossed over to this world, he had never admired anyone. Even the powerful Mei Shuiyin was no exception. But this time, just from Mei Shuiyin's description of the past, Jun Daxiao was filled with admiration for this Nine Nether First Young Master. He couldn't help but admire him. He was the strongest of the strongest, the strongest of the strongest. He was too ferocious, so ferocious that no one could imagine it. He had conquered the entire continent with his own strength, destroyed all of the cultivation techniques, and even erased all of his memories. From then on, the entire continent would only have his skill imprint. Such a crazy thing. Even a crazy person like Jun Moxie had never dared to think of it. It was really like a little cow taking a plane, flying into the sky. Then in order to choose a successor, he specially created 9 levels of Xianxi before Silver Xian to test. In the end, he chose 4 youths with different temperaments to be his successors. 3 of them were actually the first generation of the 3 Holy Lands, the true founders of the 3 Holy Lands. Mei Shuiyin smiled bitterly. Then, after an unknown amount of time, the mysterious Nine Nether First Young Master, who had the abilities of a deity, mysteriously disappeared from this world. Just like his mysterious appearance, there were no signs. Following the disappearance of the first young master, the continent gradually calmed down. Perhaps it was destined that the Xian continent would not be peaceful for long. About 100 years later, the first war for seizing the heavens broke out. So that's how it is. I was still wondering why the first young master would allow the strange races to wreak havoc in the Xian continent. Right? Didn't the first young master have 4 disciples? What's the background of his last disciple? He shouldn't be any weaker than the lords of the 3 Holy Lands. For disciples, and only 3 of them are the founders of the 3 Holy Lands. This fact was enough to shock everyone to the point that they could not think straight. It was all thanks to Jun Daxiao, who had lived 2 lives, that he still had the strength to ask even in this state of extreme shock. Not only is he not weak, he's even stronger, because the 4th disciple of the first young master is the founder of the Misty Mansion. Mei Shuiyin said blankly. Everyone no longer knew what shock was. Today's shock had come too frequently, and they were already completely numb to it. In the first 3 war for seizing the heavens, the 4 disciples gathered all the heroes of the world to join forces with Tian Fa's Beast King. With their tyrannical strength, they dealt a heavy blow to the strange race's army. But after the Third War for seizing the heavens, the strength of the ancestors of the three holy lands increased greatly. It could be said that they were already standing at the peak of the Xian continent. However, their descendants had a huge conflict with the descendants of the fourth disciple. As time passed, the two sides finally broke off and went their separate ways. Then, a series of battles began. However, the descendants of the fourth disciple were still weak and were at an absolute disadvantage. In the end, they were besieged by the three holy lands' overwhelming advantage and were on the brink of destruction. Perhaps the heavens would never cease, but at that critical moment, the descendants of the fourth disciple unexpectedly discovered the entrance to the misty mansion. The misty illusory manor was a strange place. Entering that strange place was equivalent to disappearing from this world. However, that place would appear every once in a while to recruit disciples and replenish new blood. There was no distinction between the genders of the disciples, and the most important thing was luck. It was said that there was a whole new world inside the misty, illusory manor, but as for the details, no one from the outside knew. But when they reappeared in the world, their strength was already much stronger. Even the martial artists of the three holy lands could not hope to catch up to them. If it wasn't for the war for seizing the heavens, I'm afraid the three holy lands would have been annihilated that time. After another war for seizing the heavens, the four families were about to settle old scores. But at this time, another person came out from the Nine Nether Secret Realm. He called himself the Nine Nether Second Young Master. Mei Xian laughed bitterly and said, "The appearance of this person temporarily stopped the disputes between the four families, but also caused great trouble. The ambition of this Nine Nether Second Young Master was actually not inferior to the Nine Nether First Young Master. The moment he appeared in the continent, he announced that his goal was to conquer the whole continent. But at that time, whether it was the three holy lands or the misty immortal mansion, they had already formed their own systems and confirmed their unshakable leadership positions. Plus, although this Nine Nether Second Young Master was strong, it was not to the extent that he was irresistible. He could not even be mentioned in the same breath as the Nine Nether First Young Master. Plus, he was arrogant and did not even have the slightest scruples. So he was destined to be a tragedy. Besides, the ancestors of the three holy lands and the misty immortal mansion were the true descendants of the Nine Nether First Young Master. No one was willing to submit to the other, but no matter what, they could not let an outsider conquer the continent. Chapter 673. So, the Nine Nether Second Young Master finally caused the three holy lands, Misty Mansion, and Tion Fa Forest to resist him. Besieged by so many people, the powerful Nine Nether Second Young Master chose to fearlessly face the group alone, intending to win with strength. Unfortunately, human strength is limited, and when he lost, he found an opportunity to escape. Using the method of guerrilla warfare, he continued to harass the world. After more than 20 years, everyone finally managed to get rid of this Nine Nether Second Young Master, but the entire world also suffered greatly because of this. But basically, every few hundred years, the longest span is about 2,000 years, a person like this will appear in the Nine Nether Mystery Realm. Every generation has the same bad temper. Conquering the continent is their goal, and every time the Nine Nether Mystery Realm appeared, if it wasn't for the misty mansion, no one would be able to fight them. So, the disciples of these two mysterious places became destined enemies. And so, after more than 10,000 years, there were 13 people like this. Including the Nine Nether First Young Master, there were 14 people. A total of 14 madmen. Jun Mo Xie gave his conclusion. 13 powerful madmen, and a winner so powerful that no one could defy them. Actually, the Nine Nether Mystery Realm First Young Master was also a madman, but he succeeded. And history is always written by the victors. So, he was the ancestor, and the other 13 people became madmen. Mei Xian sighed helplessly. But the strangest thing is that the Nine Nether Mystery Realm's appearance is very erratic. The most recent appearance was from the Tian Fa Forest. This caused trouble to the Tian Fa Forest. Misty Mansion gathered their manpower and successfully defeated the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters. The 9 Serenities and 14 Masters escaped with serious injuries and returned to the 9 Nether Mystery Realm. He was the only survivor among all the 9 Nether Young Masters. Misty Mansion also discovered the location of the 9 Nether Mystery Realm for the first time, so they sealed the exit of the 9 Nether Mystery Realm. That was 400 years ago, and dozens of experts from Misty Mansion used their strength to cast the mist of Misty Mansion, completely covering the exit of the 9 Nether Mystery Realm. But, just in case, we naturally need a super expert to watch over it. Tian Fa Forest is the host, so naturally, we will not pass on this responsibility. After a round of discussion, the Saint King agreed. But who would have thought that the misty, illusory manor's bewildering mist could only be entered but not exited? Although the 9 Nether Secret Realm was sealed, the most elite forces of Tian Fa Forest had also disappeared. Mei Shuiyan smiled sadly. So, the Tian Fa Forest gradually declined until today. Moreover, in the last 100 years, the sound of the sky collapsing and the earth collapsing could be heard from the mist of the Misty Mansion in the Tian Fa Forest. It should be the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters attacking the seal. Maybe, after a period of time, the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters will reappear in this world. Such a powerful madman has been silent for so many years. Now that he has made a comeback, is there anyone in this world that can compete with him? When Mei Shuiyan spoke, everyone held their breath and remained silent. Such a past was really too shocking. If Mei Shuiyan hadn't said it today, no one would have known that this continent had gone through so many changes. But these 9 Nether Young Masters charged out, slashing and killing with such great momentum. But why are there no legends of them in the continent? June Moxie raised the question that everyone wanted to know the most. There are 2 main reasons why their legends are not known. First, although these 9 Nether Young Masters were ambitious, they were all arrogant. Starting from the 9 Nether First Young Master, none of them had any record of harming civilians. Moreover, all the battles started from the 3 Holy Lands, and then the Misty Mansion intervened. They were all carried out in uninhabited places. Even if the 9 Nether Young Masters were defeated and escaped, they would choose to hide in the deep mountains and forests. It's really hard for this to be spread to the world. Mei Shuiyan said seriously, "You have to know that if these experts fought in densely populated places, I believe that even a big city like Tianxiang City would be turned into ruins after the battle. There wouldn't be a single tile left intact. A battle of this level is something that we can't even imagine." Mei Shuiyan laughed bitterly. Moreover, if such a thing were to be spread to the world, the impact would be unimaginable. Even a battle between superior supreme martial artists would be carried out in densely populated places. Not to mention this kind of pinnacle battle. For example, when the 3 Holy Lands surrounded me, didn't they also choose to carry out their attacks in the mountains? Not to mention the fact that the 9 Serenities and 14 Masters are so powerful. Also, as you said earlier, history books are always written by the victors. With the Misty Mansion and the 3 Holy Lands working together to seal it off, how would there be any news to spread? This 9 Serenities and 14 Masters is really awesome. He has character. I like him. I like him very much. June Moxie's eyes revealed a look of fascination. This 9 Serenities and 14 Masters, I really want to be friends with him. Speaking of which, these 9 Nether Young Masters are really similar to you in character. They are both crazy and wild. No wonder you admire them and want to be friends with them. But just thinking about it is enough. Don't even think about making friends with them. With your current strength, they can probably crush you with just a finger. Mei Shuiyan rolled her eyes at June Moxie, giving him the most formal disdain for his fantasies. Huh. Everyone burst into laughter. But as they laughed, their faces became even more solemn. Obviously, everything that Mei Shuiyan had said had a huge impact on them. The ignorant are fearless. The more you know, the more you know, the more you know how insignificant you were in the past. These things are still very far away from us. We don't need to think about it, at least not now. Let me give you a word of advice. Jun Moxie smiled lightly. Take a step. Only when you take this step can you say that you are qualified to take this step. Only then can you think about the next step. If you aren't even Tian Xian, what qualifications do you have to think about being a supreme? That will only make you unable to breathe or even force yourself to death. So, if you really want to compare yourself to that monstrous 9, nether 14th young master, you'd better wait till you've reached the saint level before considering again. Solitary Eagle laughed bitterly. I'm afraid I can't even reach the venerable level in this lifetime, not to mention the legendary saint level. Today, I've heard of a new level. Frog at the bottom of a well. The 8 great masters are just a few frogs at the bottom of a well with a slightly wider vision. Sigh. He let out a long sigh, feeling an indescribable sense of loss. Solitary Eagle, you can't have this kind of mentality. Admittedly, after knowing these higher levels and realms, it will undoubtedly be a huge blow to your current level. But do you know one thing? Mei Shuiyan said slowly. Do you know that there are so many experts in the 3 holy lands, and more than half of them were chosen from the pugilistic world? Any one of them was an all-powerful figure in the past. But now that you see it, all of them have no strength of character and are no different from the pugilistic world people. Do you know why? Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun were shocked and thought deeply. It is precisely because they also know about these stories that they naturally develop a kind of decadent thinking like I have no hope of reaching that level in this lifetime. Then, they feel that their arrogance and achievements in the past are laughable. Thus, they slowly become silent and even degenerate. Thus, they lose their strength of character and even become despicable and lowly, revealing the bad habits that they have been suppressing in the past. Once their state of mind is broken, they can't be stopped. In the end, as you have seen, a group of supreme martial artists and superior martial artists have become like small fries, sucking up to those above them and bullying those below them, completely losing the dignity that they once had as experts. This is their tragedy, but I do not wish for this tragedy to happen to you. Mei Shuiyan said solemnly. Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun's bodies shook violently, and their faces revealed sincere shame. Suddenly, they stood up and bowed deeply to Mei Shuiyan, saying, Thank you, Venerable Mei, for your warning. Jean Yu's words, the 2 of us will always remember it. The Venerable One's words have given the 2 of us a new lease on life. If we can make any progress in this life, it will be because of the Venerable One's words today. We can't thank you enough, so please accept our gratitude. Mei Shuiyan sat still and accepted their bow. She smiled and said, It's good that you have thought it through. This is a knot in your heart. As long as you can think it through, then in the future, there will definitely be a place for the 2 of you in the world of experts. If it is difficult to solve, then you'll be mediocre and useless and end up like those people. The real key lies in you. As for those people, if they can't even see through this, then it is not a pity for them to become small fries. Solitary Eagle and Feng Wanyun bowed to accept the teachings. Jun Moxie laughed and said, Everyone, don't think about these distant things anymore. Where there is a will, there is a way. Everything is possible. In another 1.5 days, we will reach Blizzard Silver City's territory. Shui Yin, do you think the 3 holy lands will send out saint-level experts? Mei Shuiyan frowned and said, I am also considering this question. However, according to the usual practice, if they want to send out saint-level experts, the 3 holy lands will need to discuss it together. After all, saints are not cabbages, and any one of them is an extremely valuable asset. Even the 3 holy lands will not have too many. The chances are not high. However, if it is to deal with that master of yours, there is a high possibility that they will send out saint-level experts. Oh, Jun Moxie's heart sank. Looking back at Tian Xiang, he couldn't help but have a lot of things on his mind. Grandfather sighed. If a saint-level expert really came to attack, then what? That side was a paper tiger that would be broken with one poke. The next morning, The group of people got up on time, boarded the flying chicken, and flew away. In just a day's flight, they had crossed another 8,000 miles. 8,000 miles of clouds and moon had floated past them in a single night. The closer they got to Blizzard Silver City's territory, the colder the weather became. In the distance, an everlasting white frost appeared in everyone's eyes. The snowy mountains were already in sight. Blizzard Silver City, we will be here soon. Bear Mountain danced with joy on the back of the crane, his fists pounding on his chest as he roared. His voice was so loud that it directly blew away the boundless clouds around him. This kind of noise immediately attracted the Silver City's little princess, Han Yin Ming, to roll her eyes. Then, on the back of a large crane, a burly man with the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear actually looked at Bear Mountain with a pair of affectionate eyes. Of course, Fourth Elder Bear did not notice. The night was hazy, the birds were hazy, and everything was silent. June Moxie, who was on the Eagle King's back, praised sincerely. Fourth Brother Bear's voice is really loud and clear. This sound wave is really worthy of its name. The waves behind push the waves in front, and each wave is stronger than the previous one. The Eagle King suddenly staggered and almost fell head first. Big brother, you're my blood brother, okay? We are at an altitude of 30,000 feet. Can you not say these words that will short-circuit my brain? It is very dangerous. In the evening, they were less than 500 miles away from the snowy mountains. Everyone was already in a world of ice and snow, and if they continued forward, they would be in the territory of Blizzard Silver City. Mei Shuiyin whistled, and 1,500 flying Xian beasts landed uniformly on the ground. After resting for a night, they would be facing Blizzard Silver City tomorrow. Everyone had just finished setting up camp when suddenly, is Tion Fa's Venerable Mei here? An old friend has come to visit. Please don't hesitate to meet him. An elegant voice rang out, and Mei Shuiyin and the rest were stunned. They had just arrived here, and the tents had just been set up, and someone had already come to find them. This was really unexpected. This was too fast. June Moxie stood up and motioned for everyone not to follow him out. Then he and Mei Shuiyin walked out side by side. Suddenly, a total of 6 extremely powerful divine senses swept through the air, and the entire world was suddenly filled with a kind of extremely powerful pressure. Boom, boom, boom. It was as if everyone could not breathe and found it difficult to breathe. As this aura filled the world, in the blink of an eye, 6 figures suddenly appeared in the distance, like little black dots on the snowy ground. The little black dots instantly turned into little soybeans and then became the size of fists. With a swoosh, they had already arrived in front of them. 6 people appeared in front of them, and they were less than 5 zhang away. All of them had a stern expression on their faces, and their eyes were like lightning as they looked at Mei Shuiyin and June Moxie. June Moxie suddenly felt as if he was naked in a world of ice and snow, and these sharp gazes could see through him. Even his soul felt as if it was about to leave his body. June Moxie's heart shook, and his body tensed up. He hurriedly activated the art of unlocking heaven's fortune to get rid of this terrifying feeling, but his heart was already in his throat, shrinking the earth to an inch, 1,000 li in an instant. Looking at the 6 people in front of her, Mei Shuiyin's pupils shrank abruptly, and she raised her guard abruptly. A strong battle intent rose up in her. The 6 people in front of her all had extraordinary strength, and any one of them was a super expert. Venerable level experts. 6 of them appeared at once. Chapter 674. Alright, let's continue today. The first update is here. I'm still asking for monthly votes. Tianxiang City. The 3 princes had suddenly received a surprise that they could only dream of. It felt like a dream. They had been watching their father, the emperor, who had great talent and bold vision, get beaten down little by little, humiliated, and humiliated to the extreme. Their father, who had once been indomitable, had slowly become depressed, and his once strong influence was slowly vanishing into nothingness. The imperial family of Tianxiang was in a precarious situation, and the throne that they had been looking forward to for so many years had become a hot potato, and had even become a seedling that was courting death. They were faced with Jun Moxi's strength, and his arrogant, despotic, and unscrupulous behavior, which made the hearts of the three princes turn ice cold. They had suddenly ushered in the greatest turning point of their lives in this extremely hesitant moment, and had also received the most powerful assistance, the three Holy Lands. This was especially true for the second prince. After all, he was ill. Then, he had been frightened by Big Bear and Earthcracker. Moreover, his right-hand men had been forced to leave the Jun family after they had seen how powerful the Jun family was. Even Cheng De Chao had died a violent death. In fact, he had been bitten to death. This cruel fact had scared the soul out of the second prince's body. The second prince had been bedridden for the past few months. So, he had been stunned for a long time when the servants of the prince's mansion had informed him that Li Yuran had come to visit. "Quickly invite her in. Quickly invite her in." The second prince jumped out of his bed barefooted. His face was full of eagerness for talent. Li Yuran was someone that he had been trying to win over, but had never succeeded in doing so. It was a pity that Jun Daxiao didn't know about this. If he did, wouldn't he have thought of Cao Cao and Chao Mengde, who had welcomed Suyu barefooted? Bah, I can't believe I'm comparing this wastrel to a treacherous hero. "Your Highness, I trust you've been well since we last met." Li Yuran walked in and straightened his back. He didn't salute, and only gave a simple greeting. His face was still as carefree as before. His smile made people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. Behind him were 5 old men, each of them exuding the aura of an expert. Beside them were 3 men in hemp garments. They looked to be in their 30s or 40s, but their every movement was no different from an ordinary person. Only his eyes were clear and bright, with a clear distinction between black and white, which made him stand out from the masses. But that was all. "Yuran, I missed you so much." The second prince held Li Yuran's hand enthusiastically. "I haven't seen you during this period of time. I can't even eat well. May I know who these people are?" Li Yuran smiled gently, but a trace of disgust flashed in the depths of his eyes. He said with a smile, "Your Royal Highness, these people are all extraordinary big shots. Let me introduce them to you. This is Old Ma, this is Old Lu, this is Old Nio, this is Old Zhu, and this is Old Yang. Your Royal Highness, these 5 big shots are all supreme martial artists." When she said the last 4 words, Li Yuran paused between each word and said in a solemn tone, "These 5 supreme martial artists are from the supreme Golden City, one of the 3 Holy Lands. One of the reasons why they are here is to help your Highness ascend to the throne. Supreme martial artists, help me ascend to the throne of the Empress." The second prince's hands and legs trembled, and his entire body trembled like noodles. Suddenly, his tears fell like rain. I never thought that I, Yang Dan, would have such a day, boo. The heavens really took pity on him. He had dreamed of this for so many years, and now he finally had help. These are all supreme martial artists, These are the true pinnacle existences of this world, Didn't Jun Moxi only dare to be so arrogant because he had the help of Solitary Eagle? But now, he only have one Solitary Eagle, and at most, you have Feng Wanyun, who is a guest elder. But this prince has 5 people, the help of 5 supreme martial artists. Wah! First, he was filled with hope, then helplessly depressed, then disheartened. But now, there was light at the end of the tunnel. The second prince felt that his life had not been easy. It was full of ups and downs, thrilling to the core. Seeing how agitated the second prince was, the 5 old men revealed looks of extreme disdain in their eyes. "Isn't it just a secular throne? Even if you become the emperor, how many years can you live with that puny body of yours? Is it worth it to be this agitated? These mortals are really incomprehensible. You want to go against Jun Moxi with this kind of conduct? You're really blind. Not to mention you. Even the 5 of us are not his match. If we don't have a stronger backing, We'll have to run the moment we see that little thief June. The five supreme martial artists only nodded lightly at the second prince's deliberate flattery. The second prince greeted them one by one with a face full of smiles. When it was Old Yang's turn, the second prince said, "Old Yang, hee, I didn't expect us to be from the same clan." Old Yang was a little nervous, not because of the second prince, but because of the three saints behind him. Why is this kid talking so much? Letting the three saints act as servants behind me? This will shorten my lifespan. Hearing the question, he replied without hesitation, "No, we are not from the same clan. You are the Yang in a poplar tree, a dead sheep. I'm a bleeding sheep alive." The three saints behind him could not help coughing. The Yang in a poplar tree, a dead sheep. I am a bleeding sheep alive. This is too classic. "You're called Yang Dan?" One of the saints finally asked after holding in for a while. As a ruler of a country, how could he give his son such a name? Yang Dan. What a talented person. Yes, I'm Yang Dan. May I know who these three are? The second prince asked hopefully as he looked at the three middle-aged men. How he wished that these three were also supreme martial artists. If that was the case, it would be equivalent to having all 8 supreme martial artists. With a supreme martial artist in my hands, the world is mine. Unifying the world. I am the only one. These 3 people are my attendants. From now on, how about we stay at the second prince's residence? Li Yuran smiled gracefully and spoke in a tone that suggested he was showing his gratitude. It was not that she did not want to tell him, but for someone like the second prince, the highest level was supreme martial artists. If he were to tell her that these 3 were saints who were dozens of times more powerful than supreme martial artists, she probably would not be able to react in time. Why would the second prince care about his tone of voice? He was already overwhelmed by the sudden ecstasy and agreed immediately. In the end, he still had some time to think and said, "I, Yang Dan, am naturally overjoyed to be able to receive help from a senior from the Holy Lands. However, I know that I cannot accept a reward without doing anything. Is there anything you need me to do?" He secretly made up his mind. No matter what it was, he would try his best to complete it. If he really could not complete it, he would create the conditions to complete it. He had to make these people stay at all costs. This was his only hope at the moment. "It's not a big deal." Li Yuran chuckled. "We just need to use your influence to help us with some things. That's why I need a certain amount of authority." "No problem. From now on, Brother Yuran will have full authority over all the powers that belong to me. You don't need to go through me." The second prince gritted his teeth and thought for a long time. Finally, he stomped his foot and made a decision that was completely unimaginable to him. Give up authority, and it was a complete decentralization. You can't catch a wolf without sacrificing your children. You can't catch a hooligan without sacrificing your wife. You can't catch someone without sacrificing your chrysanthemum. That was why the second Prince Yang Dan went all out today. He was betting on this. "Good. Your Highness is wise." Li Yuran's face revealed a trace of a smile as the two of them shook hands. "Next, I will issue my first order. I want detailed information on all the generals, families, and powers that belong to the Jun family." Li Yuran said slowly with a smile. "No problem. I will make the arrangements immediately." The second prince agreed immediately and carried out the orders. At the same time, Zi Jinghong brought 5 supremes and 3 ordinary people to the third Prince Yang's palace. The Hermitage's men also successfully entered the eldest Prince Yang Qiu's inner circle. It was a very similar scene. The 3 princes of Tianxiang had simultaneously become the 3 great puppets. The most willing puppets in the history of Tianxiang had been born. Moreover, 3 of them had been made in one go. An unprecedented storm was secretly brewing in the Tianxiang city. The 3 royal brothers that Jun and Mo Xie had once jokingly called Yang Qiu, Yang Dan, and Yang Jiji were finally able to launch a counterattack. Heartless Venerable Du Ju, World's Edge Venerable Xiao Tianya, Compassionate Venerable Zhen Sibei, Broken Sword Venerable Hua Feng Wan, Cruel Blade Venerable Chu Wuqing, Rogue Venerable Lucio. Mei Shuiyin looked at the 6 names one by one. Jun Moxie felt a chill run down his spine. Oh my god, 6 venerable ones actually came out at once. They really think highly of me. It's been many years since we last met. Venerable Mei's memory is really good. You actually named all of us without any mistakes. I'm impressed. Broken Sword Venerable Hua Feng once smiled. His black beard and white robe fluttered in the wind. His tone was gentle, as if he was chatting with an old friend. You are all venerables, the top masters in the Jianghu. How could I dare to forget such illustrious power? Mei Shuiyin smiled faintly. She squinted her eyes and said, I wonder what the 6 venerables are here for. Are you here to give me some advice? How could I dare to talk about it? As for advice, we should be asking Venerable Mei for advice. I'm just here to discuss some matters with Venerable Mei, Hua Fengwen said calmly with a gentle smile on his face. Venerable Mei, you're right. What is it? Mei Shuiyin frowned and exchanged a look with Jun Moxie. Venerable Mei, we, the 3 saints and 1 ferocious, have always adhered to the teachings of our ancestors. We do not care about worldly disputes, so as not to disturb the balance of the continent. Venerable Mei's participation in the war between the Jun family and the Silver Blizzard City has violated this rule. I believe that even the elders of Tian Fa would not be happy if they knew about this. Therefore, the 6 of us are here to persuade you. If Venerable Mei is willing to follow our advice and leave safely, we can pretend that this never happened, Hua Fengwen said elegantly with a smile. I just finished working overtime at 3 o'clock last night. Then I talked to Shizhu and was about to go to sleep. But I was scolded. I took off my nightgown. Let me explain. I never wear clothes at home. I bought an oversized nightgown, the kind that hangs down on my feet. It's completely naked inside. I pull my belt when I sleep, and it's gone. Then I get up in the morning and put on my nightgown. I don't take it off until I sleep. Oh, no laughing. Then I heard someone shouting angrily from below, whose coat is on the horizontal bar. I shuddered and remembered that I had hung my coat on the horizontal bar yesterday. I forgot to keep it. I quickly put on my nightgown again and ran down. It was an old lady in her 60s. I quickly thanked her, but I didn't expect to be scolded. Why did you leave your coat here? I smiled and said to hang it, but the old lady said, You use stars to hang it? I was speechless. Then the old lady started to say, You hung it on the horizontal bar like that. I thought someone had hanged himself here. You scare me to death, you know? You can't even move it in such a strong wind. Is your coat made of iron? I couldn't sleep since 11 o'clock last night. I kept looking at it from the window. This time, I even wanted to call the police. She waved the phone in her hand. I was sweating. Explain. My coat has a hat. Now that I look at it, the hat hanging down, it does look like that. I humbly sent the old lady upstairs. I supported her as she scolded me all the way until we reached home. The old lady felt a little embarrassed and said, Actually, I'm not scolding you, okay? I nodded and said, Yes, you're not scolding me. You're not scolding me. When I got home, I washed my face and washed the spittle off. Then I came back to my senses. You've been scolding me for half an hour, and your spittle has covered my eyes. You're not scolding me. Who are you scolding? Chapter 675. Retreat safely? Hua Fengwen, what if I say no? Mei Shuiyin smiled lang-lang. Then, I'm afraid it won't be pleasant. The Venerable of the Broken Sword, Hua Fengwen, said regretfully. Mei Shuiyin snorted disdainfully. Her expression was cold as she said sharply, Follow the teachings of the ancestors? Hua Fengwen, you should know that the ancestors of the 4 families made a promise to look at the big picture. Everything is for the Xian continent and the people of the world. He strictly ordered the 4 families not to fight with each other, let alone kill each other. Anyone who disobeys will be punished by the 4 families. But now, the 3 holy lands are determined to kill me. You have so many tricks up your sleeves, ambushes, and assassinations. Why didn't you say the ancestral teachings? Why did he have to pretend to be so compassionate and compassionate at this time? Why is everyone from the elusive world of immortals learning to be hypocrites from Mo Wu Dao? If you want to kill me here, just say it. I, Mei Shuyan, am ready. Why do you have to come up with such high-sounding reasons? Hua Fengwen, don't you think it's too hypocritical? The venerable of the broken sword, Hua Fengwen, was unmoved. He laughed and said seriously, I think Venerable Mei has misunderstood something. For tens of thousands of years, the four families have always supported each other. We are as close as brothers and have always been a harmonious family. How could there be such a rebellious thing as killing Venerable Mei? Venerable Mei, you must have been mistaken. But the six of you are here together. Am I mistaken as well? Mei Shuyan looked at him mockingly. But we are here with good intentions. Otherwise, Venerable Mei will make a big mistake and regret it. Hua Fengwen sighed and said seriously, You must know that in this world, love cannot be mended by heaven, and hatred cannot be filled. Venerable Mei, don't sink yourself into an irrecoverable state just because of a moment of anger. That's really not worth it. Even if I'm consigned to eternal damnation, that's my problem. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with you, right? Mei Shuyan said coldly. If there's nothing else, you can leave now. Mei Shuyan unceremoniously asked her to leave. With regard to the three holy lands, he had finally lost all hope. Things had already reached this point, and the three holy lands had already lost close to 100 people in order to deal with him. Yet this fellow was still lying through his teeth, saying that justice was the priority. It was really annoying. Such hypocrisy was even more unbearable than some brazen villains. We've already tried our best to persuade you, but Venerable Mei, are you going to remain unmoved? Disregarding the teachings of the ancestors and looking down on the common people of the world? Venerable Mei, do you really want to be so stubborn? Hua Fengwen looked at her with a smile. That won't be good. Very bad. He smiled as he spoke. His voice was gentle, and it could even be considered gentle. However, the meaning behind his words was that he was under great pressure. So what? Mei Shuyan's face turned cold, and a formless, majestic aura emanated from her. A cold and inviolable aura appeared on her body. You want me to see the consequences with just the six of you? Hua Fengwen, you think too highly of yourself. Venerable Mei, you really have a sharp tongue. Haha, impressive. Lu Qiu, the gangster Venerable, could not hold it in any longer. He squinted his eyes and looked at Mei Shuyan. He clicked his tongue and said, Venerable Mei always wears a black robe and looks mysterious. I didn't know that Venerable Mei is such a beauty. Haha, sorry for not recognizing you. Mei Shuyan frowned. The more Jun Mo Xia listened, the more uncomfortable he felt. He looked at this old man's obscene eyes and drooling face. Suddenly, a burst of anger surged within him. He wanted to twist this monkey-faced man's head off and use it as a urinal. He took a step forward and looked gloomily at the pervert Venerable in front of him. He snorted and said, Pervert Venerable? Are you cute? That's me. Lu Qiu rolled his red eyes and looked at Jun Moxie. He suddenly laughed. You're Jun Moxie, right? The one who follows Venerable Mei around shamelessly? That's me. Jun Moxie tilted his head and looked at him. What do you want? Humph. Do you think you're a match for the beautiful Venerable Mei with this kind of material? You're a toad lusting after a swan. Kid, if you know what's good for you, get the hell away from me. Lu Qiu snorted and said rudely. This fellow was originally a perverted demon, and his habits had not changed even after so many years. However, after entering the three holy lands, he had lost the opportunity to do so, and was also restricted by the saints. He had been holding back for so many years. At this moment, when he saw Mei Shuyan, the evil fire that had been suppressed in his heart for many years suddenly burst out. For a moment, it surged violently, and he couldn't control himself. He only felt that his lower body was swelling up like a balloon, and his face was a little red. He breathed heavily and couldn't stop even if he wanted to. Then, she saw that Jun Mo Xia was acting as her protector, and she couldn't help but feel even more irritated. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? No matter what, I'm handsome and elegant. No matter what, I look like a decent person. Sitting on the street, I'm loved by everyone. girls will rush to throw themselves into my arms. At least it won't be difficult for me to find a wife. No matter how you look at it, I'm better than you, right? Junimo Sie squinted his eyes and looked at him with contempt. He started with his appearance, ruthlessly attacking him. Me? What's wrong with me? You look like a human, but do you think I don't look like a human? Lucio's biggest regret in his life was that he was too ugly and had no luck with women. He always forced himself on them, which was very boring. But he could not decide his own appearance. He was helpless. Now, that Junimo Sie had poked at his wound, he was naturally enraged. With an angry roar, his aura exploded, and the surrounding ice and snow were sent flying. You also know that you don't look good? Well, even if you're too shy to look in the mirror, you can always see your bad luck when you pee. Look at your shoehorn face. It's like a ripe persimmon that fell from a tree and landed on a sharp stone. Then it was stepped on by a bear, and the bear was the one with athlete's foot. Junimo Sie pursed his lips and pointed his finger at him. Using a judgmental tone, he described in detail, "It's so bad that it can't get any worse. Do you know, I really admire your parents now. To be able to create someone like you, they are really two great talents that have never been seen before in the history of the world. What's even more admirable is that after giving birth to you, she was actually able to resist the urge to strangle you to death. This kind of endurance is truly extraordinary. What's even more admirable is that she actually raised you. You have to know how disgusting it is to face your face every day. Truly admirable, truly admirable. A man and a woman, two strong people." Junimo Sie's face was full of amazement as he clicked his tongue, as if he couldn't understand such a thing. He had never imagined that the endurance of humans could reach such a level. Hearing this, even Du Ju, Jean Sibei, and the others could not help but laugh. Jun Moxie's mouth was really too vicious. It could simply anger a living person to death, and then make the dead person jump up and down in the coffin. "Jun Moxie, I'm going to kill you. I'm definitely going to kill you." Lucio roared and almost vomited blood. He was so angry that the green ribbon that tied his hair snapped. His long hair stood straight up, and the snow around him flipped outwards for where he stood, as if there was magma erupting underground. It was obvious that the rogue venerable was extremely angry. Then a figure flashed. Lucio was still standing at the same spot, but his body had already left 6 afterimages in the air. One of his hands had already grabbed Jun Moxie's head. When a venerable was angry, the earth shook and the sky shook. Not to mention a venerable who was in a state of rage. Du Ju and the others wanted to stop him, but it was too late. The enraged Lucio was about to crush Jun Moxie's skull. In his rage, Lucio did not restrain his strength at all. He unleashed his full power. He wanted to kill Jun Moxie with his palm. Other venerables might care about Jun Moxie's master and the safety of the 3 holy lands, but Lucio had always been lawless, so he did not care. In fact, he was even thinking in his heart, "If I kill this brat, at most, I'll just leave and let the 3 holy lands deal with this mess. There are more restrictions after leaving that place, and I can do whatever I want." Anyone who slandered this deity for being ugly had never been able to live in this world. How could I make an exception for this kid? That was why Lucio was filled with extreme cruelty. Besides, Venerable May is so beautiful. If I can't enjoy her, you'll have to destroy her. Oomph. The figure suddenly flashed, and there was a loud boom. The 5 venerables only felt the ground suddenly tremble. Then, they saw the 2 whirlwinds suddenly converge at one spot. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared. The snow and ice on the ground seemed to gather towards the whirlwinds like weightless dust, forming a huge whirlwind pillar. In the blink of an eye, it shot up to a height of 40 to 50 feet. Jun Moxie was still standing at the same spot, but Mei Shuiyan had disappeared. The situation was obvious. The moment Lucio attacked, Mei Shuiyan attacked as well. Just as Jun Moxie was about to counterattack, she blocked his attack and fought with Lucio. Mei Shuiyan used her deep love for Jun Moxie to pass the barrier of love and successfully entered the third stage of the Venerable. She had unknowingly fallen in love with Jun Moxie and saw him as the only one in her life. How could she let someone hurt the person she loved the most in front of her? She would not let it happen, even if she risked her life. As long as I, Mei Shuiyin, am still alive, no one can hurt my Mo Xie in front of me. Lu Qiu attacked out of rage, but Mei Shuiyin also attacked out of rage. Chapter 676. Lu Qiu only wanted to kill Jun Mo Xie. Mei Shuiyin's attack made him even angrier and more frustrated. Thus, he attacked without hesitation, without holding back at all. Du Ju and the others were shocked. The 6 of them had come here with the intention of greeting each other. In other words, he was saying some high-sounding words that no one actually believed. Persuade Mei Shuiyin to retreat? That was nonsense. How could she retreat after coming here for tens of thousands of miles? All they wanted was for Mei Shuiyin to reject them. That way, they would have a good reason to fight. Venerables were venerables after all. They had to care about their status and reputation. How could they start a fight like a normal Luluo? Moreover, they could also find out more about this place. Who knew that a fight would break out the moment the 6 of them arrived? Lu Qiu's lust flared up at this moment. He had said those nonsensical words and had lost his status as a venerable. Moreover, it had led to him fighting with Venerable Mei to such an extent. This guy is really not good at accomplishing anything, but good at spoiling things. Zhen Sibei Lengling glared at Chu Wuqing. Among the 6 of them, Chu Wuqing and Lu Qiu came from the same place, the illusory Blood Sea. The merciful Venerable Zhen Sibei and the Venerable of the Broken Sword Huafeng were from the elusive world of immortals, while the heartless Venerable Du Ju and the Venerable of the Edge of the World, Xiao Tianya, were from the Supreme Golden City. At this moment, even Huafeng Wan and Xiao Tianya were dissatisfied with Lu Qiu. They all felt that it was really shameful to come out with this guy. As a venerable, no matter how perverted you are, you can't be so horny. It's like you haven't seen a woman in 8 lifetimes. You're so thirsty. The other 5 venerables looked helpless when they saw the snowstorm in the air. Once a battle of this level started, there was no room for outsiders to intervene, unless everyone was willing to throw away their pride and gang up on him. But if that was the case, the other side still had 2,000 Pinnacle Level 9 contestants and Beast Kings. How could they possibly be here to watch a show? Although the 5 of them were venerable ones, and their strengths were certainly several levels higher than the mystical beasts in front of them. As the saying went, ants could bite an elephant to death when there were enough of them. In particular, mystical beasts were known for their tough skin and thick flesh that could not be killed. Even a venerable one would be turned into minced meat if they were to attack a swarm of 2,000 bees. It was impossible to fight in numbers. At this moment, Long Crane and the rest of the Beast Kings had already surrounded them. Every one of them had an unfriendly look on their faces, and it seemed as if they were itching for a fight. At this time, as long as any of the Beast Kings or young Master Jun yelled out, a beast tide would definitely follow. Suddenly, bang! Mei Shuiyin's white figure landed on the ground. She pulled Jun Mo Xie, and both of them retreated at the same time. Boom! The pillar of ice and snow in the air rotated at a high speed like a whirlwind. Suddenly, it exploded. A figure grunted and flew out with a whoosh. When he landed on the ground, the soil, sand, stones, and ice splashed up with a bang, almost covering the entire sky. Lu Qiu's body suddenly rushed out from the dust. His face was ferocious. On his right chest, there were 3 neat handprints. As the cold wind blew, the 3 palm-shaped pieces of cloth fluttered like butterflies. Lu Qiu's face was red, and his eyes looked like he wanted to eat someone. He roared again and rushed forward like lightning. Mei Shuiyin was calm, and there was not a speck of dust on her clothes. Lu Qiu, on the other hand, was in a sorry state. Everyone knew that Lu Qiu had suffered a great loss. It was possible that he had suffered internal injuries. Lu Qiu, you're not done yet. Don't you have any shame? Chu Wuqing shouted, but Lu Qiu ignored him and continued to rush towards Mei Shuiyin. After suffering such a big loss in front of so many people, how could he swallow this humiliation? First, he was insulted by Jun Moxie, then beaten up by Mei Shuyan. I'm also a venerable. He was a dignified venerable realm expert. If I don't get back at him, how can I survive in the world of venerables? Mei Shuyan watched him pounce on her. Her expression was as calm as usual, but there was a hint of a cold smile on her face. She crossed her jade-like palms, and like the petals of an orchid, she made a strange gesture. Suddenly, the world seemed to freeze. The wind stopped blowing, and the clouds stopped moving. Even the snow and gravel that were scattering in the air were frozen in midair. A murderous look flashed across Mei Shuyan's eyes. I didn't want to kill you just now because of the other 5 people. I've already given you a way out, but now you're rushing forward again. You don't know when to stop. So what if you're a venerable? Am I not allowed to kill a venerable? Anyone who dares to hurt Mo Xia will be killed. Chu Wuqing was shocked. He gathered all his xianqi and rushed forward at full speed. There was a flash of light in his hand, and he rushed forward at high speed. He wanted to use his xianqi to break through Mei Shuyan's space lock and save Lucio. He shouted, "Venerable Mei, please have mercy." However, it was too late. Everything was too late. Mei Shuyan Lingling said, "World Cage." Lucio's lightning-fast body suddenly froze in midair. He could not move at all. There was a world above him, but he was strangely frozen in the air. Lucio's character was bad, but his xianqi was extraordinary. He had reached the 2nd level of the Venerable. But now, Mei Shuyan had broken through the peak of the 2nd level of the Venerable and reached the 3rd level of the Venerable. The world cage that Mei Shuyan cast could not be avoided or broken through, except for those who were the same level or higher than the 3rd level. This was on a completely different level from the world cage that Mei Shuyan used in Tian Fa. Even Lucio, who was already at the Venerable level, could not do it. Lucio was shocked. He felt that his body was no longer under his control. It was as if he was a small fish swimming freely in the water, but the water suddenly turned into ice, and he was suddenly frozen in ice. He could no longer struggle. At this moment, Mei Shuyan's white figure flew over like a bolt of lightning. A pair of slender, jade-like palms made a series of pong-pong sounds, which merged into a loud bang. The moment they touched, she struck 30 times. It was solid. All of them landed on Lucio's body. If it was not for the fact that she was worried about Chu Wuqing's attack, Mei Shuyan would have slapped this despicable person 1,000 times. Lucio's body rolled out like a ball. In the air, it was like a fallen leaf falling from a tree branch, or like a hurricane suddenly rising in the orchard in late autumn. The fruits hanging on the tree branches were swept up and sent flying away. At the same time, Mei Shuyan's sleeves fluttered in the wind. Her slender body did not land on the ground. Instead, she made a slight turn in the air. Her posture was so graceful that she looked like a fairy who had descended from the heavens. Her sleeves fluttered lightly like snow in the wind, yet as fast as lightning. She clashed with Chu Wuqing's broken blade. To be more precise, it should be against that dazzling saber light. This was because the famous broken saber of Chu Wuqing had yet to appear. Or rather, the saber had appeared long ago, but no one could see it. This was because the dazzling saber light had attracted everyone's attention. The two great forces finally collided, and there was not the slightest bit of trickery. Pung. Mei Shuyan's unique skill, space lock cage of heaven and earth, could not withstand the impact and broke. Mei Shuyan's sleeves, which were filled with pure xianqi, clashed with the dazzling saber light. However, it was not damaged at all. Her graceful body floated back down in a beautiful arc. The moment her clothes fluttered in the wind, she had already returned to Jun and Mo Xia's side. She looked even more relaxed and graceful, as if she had just returned from a stroll in the garden. There was no sign of a fierce battle. Chu Wuqing flipped over and landed on the ground. His body shook slightly, and he stabilized himself. Then, he returned to his previous empty-handed state. The dazzling saber disappeared once again. From the beginning to the end, no one could really see Chu Wuqing's broken saber. Chu Wuqing, on the other hand, looked at Mei Shuiyin in shock. Venerable Level 3? Venerable Mei, congratulations on your breakthrough. Although he was congratulating her, the expression on his face was very complicated. It seemed like admiration, jealousy, and even a bit of unwillingness behind him. Du Ju and the others all paled upon hearing this. Third-level Venerable was not the same as first or second-level Venerables. No wonder Mei Shuiyin did not have any misgivings when facing the 6 of them at the same time. Among the 6 of them, there were 3 first-level Venerables and 3 second-level Venerables. Before Mei Shuyin's breakthrough, she was only at the pinnacle of second-level Venerables, even though she was stronger than any of them. With this lineup, even if the Xian Bee's physique was far superior to that of humans, it was still more than enough to deal with her. But now this wishful thinking had completely failed. With Venerable Mei's breakthrough, her strength had increased tremendously. Coupled with her unparalleled skills and amazing speed, it was very likely that she would be able to defeat them one by one. The 6 of them had come here with the original intention of displaying their powerful lineup to intimidate and then create a dignified reason to intervene. Also, they wanted to find out the truth. Now, they had found out the truth, but they were completely shocked by the other party's strength at this moment. There was a bang sound from afar. It was the sound of Lu Qiu's body landing on the ground. A huge crater was formed on the ground, and stone fragments flew everywhere. Lu Qiu stood up with one hand on his chest and staggered out. His ugly face looked even more miserable, and the corner of his mouth was red. Chapter 677. Lu Qiu seemed to want to say something, but as soon as he opened his mouth, blood flowed out even faster. He quickly shut his mouth and used his Xian Qi to regulate his breathing. For a moment, he could not even speak. Then, he closed his eyes and ignored the thousands of level 9 peak Xian beasts around him as he started to heal himself. He knew that his injuries were serious and could not be delayed any longer. Even if he dragged it out any longer, he would still lose his life. Mei Shuyin's attack was extremely vicious. Although she did not use her full strength out of fear of Chu Wuqing, it was still not something that Lu Qiu could withstand. Everyone was shocked. The thick and unusually red blood at the corner of Lu Qiu's mouth was from his internal organs. Lu Qiu was done for. Even if he did not die, with such injuries, it would be difficult for him to recover. He would probably lose at least 80% of his strength. Everyone was clearly aware of this fact in their hearts. Venerable Mei, what a vicious move. Chu Wuqing only took a glance before turning back to look at Mei Shuiyin with rage in his eyes. Vicious? You call this vicious? I don't think so. Jun Mo Xie smiled and asked, May I ask, Sir Crippled Saber Venerable, why are all of you Venerables gathered here? I'm guessing that you are not here to admire the snow, right? Let's not beat around the bush. We both know each other's motives, so why do we have to pretend to be the victim? This is how the martial world works. Especially since you've already reached the level of a venerable. You shouldn't be saying such things anymore. You are a laughing stock. Lu Qiu asked for it, and he deserved it. You're right. It was indeed my slip of the tongue earlier. Chu Wuqing looked at Jun Moxie with admiration and said, To be able to say such words, you must have understood the true meaning of the martial world. But, Jun Moxie, do you know another saying? He paused and said word by word. Once you are in the martial world, you have no choice. Some things, even if they had to do it, they had to find a reason. Regardless of whether this reason is reasonable or not, there must be one. I naturally understand this logic, and I agree with it. Jun Moxie chuckled. Suddenly, he raised his hand and pointed with a murderous aura. Therefore, for this reason, this person must die. Young Master Jun was pointing at Lu Qiu's location. Dare I ask all of you, if anyone were to express his desire for your wife in front of you, I believe that none of you will let him off, right? Jun Moxie coldly smiled. This is the reason why you want him dead. We do not deny what you say. It's perfectly reasonable. Chu Wuqing smiled mercilessly and said, "But we also have a reason to protect him. That is, we came together. We must leave with them." He looked at Jun Moxie with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Even though it was slight, it was obvious. Moreover, this kind of humiliation should be washed away by the man himself. If you hide behind a woman all the time, even if the enemy dies, you will not be able to avenge yourself. And you don't seem to have the ability to do so. Let's put this aside for today. We will settle the score in Silver City in the future, regardless of whether we owe you or you owe us. Let's fight it out. You are right. I have no intention of letting others take care of me. Naturally, I will take revenge with my own hands. As for whether I have the ability or not. Huh. Jun Moxie laughed heartily. Suddenly, the thick murderous aura on his body disappeared without a trace. Following that, young Master Jun's body started to fade bit by bit. This strange phenomenon shocked the Venerables again. Retracting one's aura quickly was something that everyone could do. But to be like Jun Moxie, who was filled with murderous aura a moment ago, and then retracted it in the next moment, not revealing a single trace of it. Such a clean and neat move. No one could do it. This young man's cultivation technique was indeed mysterious. Chu Wuqing's expression was the same as before. He didn't seem to have moved at all, but his body had already appeared in front of Lu Qiu without any sound or movement. Even though he hated this person, Chu Wuqing could not allow Lu Qiu to be killed right under his nose. The other Venerables did not move. If they had to fight against Jun Moxie at the same time, then Venerables were too worthless. Chu Wuqing alone was enough. He was even giving Jun Moxie a lot of credit. Jun Moxie had completely disappeared. Mei Shuiyan smiled and did not show any signs of helping. She seemed to be very confident in Jun Moxie. This action made Chu Wuqing even more suspicious. Jun Moxie had disappeared without a trace under his dumbfounded gaze. Even with his venerable level divine sense, he could not sense him at all. This strange and even inconceivable situation caused the other four venerable ones to feel inexplicably shocked. They had never seen such a strange movement technique. No matter how fast and ingenious it was, there should be some signs. However, this young man just disappeared into thin air without moving. Suddenly, a golden light flashed in the sky. Chu Wuqing's right hand moved quickly, and a small flying dagger landed on the ground. The flying dagger had a strange shape. It was thin with smooth lines. It lay quietly on the ice, glinting coldly like a ghost's eye. Chu Wuqing was taken aback. Although this flying dagger was small, its sharpness was something he had never seen in his life. Others might not know, but he knew that this small flying dagger had actually left a mark on his broken sword. That was a super precious dagger that would not leave a mark even if it was smashed by a 10,000-pound hammer. The direction that the flying dagger was heading towards was where Lu Qiu was. Chu Wuqing could clearly see that if he did not stop it in time, the flying dagger would have pierced into Lu Qiu's throat. Just as the flying dagger landed on the ground, the sky was filled with golden lights again. This time it was not just one spot. It was countless spots. Chu Wuqing shouted, and a ball of saber light burst out from his body. This ball of saber light was like a rainbow in the sky. From one side to the other, it formed a bridge-like arc. The rainbow light connected the two places, and with a few soft popping sounds, countless spots of golden light landed on the saber and gathered at Chu Wuqing's feet. With one slash, Chu Wuqing actually transferred all the attacks to the same place, and then struck down all of them. At this time, he was still empty-handed. The broken dagger that he was famous for was still nowhere to be seen. But Chu Wuqing's face changed. Oh no, that was what he was thinking. That was because the specks of golden light beneath his feet were actually just a large piece of fine gold dust. It was a feint. Sure enough, a dull sound came from behind, followed by Lu Qiu's inhuman scream. Jun Moxie! Chu Wuqing was enraged. He did not have time to turn around, so he used his high-speed movement technique to circle around Lu Qiu, who was on the verge of collapsing. In a split second, he slashed hundreds of times in all directions. There was absolutely no blind spot. Jun Moxie had just attacked Lucio. Although he could not see his figure, Chu Wuqing was sure that he was within this range. He was definitely not far away. The technique that Chu Wuqing was using was a mysterious technique that he had comprehended during the war for seizing the heavens. The mutated races were just that strange. However, even though the mutated races' movement techniques were mysterious, there were still traces to be found. But Jun Moxie could not understand it all. But whether he understood it or not, it was definitely effective. Because in the past, Chu Wuqing had used this kind of sudden inspiration to kill his opponent. 8 storms move heaven and earth. That was the name of this technique. After a few hundred years of practice, this technique was far from what it used to be. Chu Wuqing had used all his strength at this moment. The fact that Jun Moxie could hurt Lucio under his tight protection made Chu Wuqing regard Jun Moxie as an opponent of the same level as himself. His heart was filled with fear. At such a young age, Jun Moxie already had such a terrifying cultivation. Previously, Jun Moxie had used the yin-yang escape technique and disappeared without a trace. Then, he had sent out a meteorite flying dagger as a test. This flying dagger had been refined and refined with the power of gold, and it was even stronger than before. The sharpness of the blade was enough to shock even an expert like Chu Wuqing. The golden rain that followed wasn't really caused by countless flying daggers. Instead, it was caused by Jun Moxie taking out a piece of gold from his bosom and activating the power of gold, turning the piece of gold into a pile of gold dust. Then he waved it, seeing the same golden light appear. Chu Wuqing naturally used all his strength. He was afraid that the knife would be damaged, and he also wanted to protect the pervert lord, who was still recovering. Actually, with Jun Moxie's current strength, it was impossible for him to summon so many flying daggers. Of course, if Jun Moxie could really summon so many flying daggers, the power would not be something that Chu Wuqing could defend against. The reason for this, other than Jun Moxie, was something that no one knew. Chu Wuqing's reaction was exactly what Jun Moxie had planned. Jun Moxie activated the yin-yang escape again and appeared in front of Lucio while maintaining his invisible state. Then, he kicked Lucio 13 times without hesitation, and each kick landed precisely on the same spot. Lucio's crotch. How dare you covet your father's woman? How dare you do it in front of me? If I don't turn you into a eunuch, how can I appease my anger? After the 13 kicks, Jun Moxie immediately escaped. What was left between Lucio's legs was a mess, and not a single part of him was left intact. Chapter 678. Jun Moxie's guess was right. Chu Wuqing reacted immediately and even used the most appropriate move. It was the most suitable move for such a situation. Jun Moxie retreated at full speed, but he only retreated less than 20 feet before his entire body was enveloped by the light of the sword. He felt as if his body was being cut apart. He had no choice but to enter the Hongjun Pagoda. Who asked you to be so strong? I have a cheat. Do you? You little. The saber radiance cut through the heavens and the earth, and even the boulders and ice layers that were tens of feet away were lifted up. All of a sudden, with Lucio as the center, there was an earth-shattering scene within a radius of tens of feet. Snow mist, ice shards, and stone shards soared into the sky like a fountain, leaving behind deep and bottomless scars on the ground. On the ground, there were 3 marks as wide as a finger's width. One could see how concentrated the attack was. But Chu Wuqing was disappointed and depressed, because as soon as he unleashed this move, he saw that Jun Moxie had already returned to Mei Shuiyan's side, safe and sound, and was saying something to Mei Shuiyan with a face full of tenderness, as it turned out. This move of mine was completely hitting the air. The main character had already returned, but he couldn't retract this move that he had unleashed with all his might in a moment of haste. It was as if he was playing a monkey show, causing an earth-shattering commotion, but it was useless. This feeling almost made Chu Wuqing vomit blood. Furthermore, the person he had to protect was currently rolling on the ground with a twisted expression, clutching his crotch. Every time he rolled, there would be an eye-catching bloodstain on the snowy ground, some of which were the yolk of a broken egg. Lu Qiu screamed in pain, and the sound that came from his throat did not sound like a human's. Du Ju and the rest looked at each other in shock. Although Lu Qiu was a venerable like them, he was severely injured by the counterattack of Venerable Mei, who was a level 3 venerable. Then, he was ambushed by Jun Moxie while he was recuperating. With his injuries, there was no way he could survive. Lu Qiu might even have a tough life. But what really surprised the 5 venerables was that they did not expect Jun Moxie to successfully attack another venerable under the protection of a venerable. Although Lu Qiu's strength was greatly reduced, Jun Moxie was able to successfully break through Chu Wuqing's protection and severely injure Lu Qiu. Then, he was able to escape unscathed. There was not even a trace of embarrassment. This kind of achievement was something that none of the 4 people watching from the side could achieve. This caused all 4 of them to feel a heartfelt shock at the same time. The way he looked at Jun Moxie was filled with fear and murderous intent. We can't let him live. We can't let him live. Even if he lives for another day, he will be in danger. If we don't get rid of him, we will all become meat on the chopping block. We don't even need to wait for him to grow. Even now, he is already a great threat. Anyway, his master is already being dealt with by 9 saints, so he should be fine. It doesn't matter if we kill him now. Thinking of this, the 5 of them were filled with murderous intent. Mei Shuiyin quietly observed the changes in the battlefield. Her exquisite mind was analyzing the current situation. Her sensitive divine sense was firmly locked on the 5 venerables. If they dared to act rashly, Mei Shuiyin was ready to take action at any time. Seeing the murderous intent in Du Ju and the rest, Jun Moxie's expression remained unchanged, but his heart was filled with murderous intent. No matter how arrogant the 3 Holy Lands were, they wouldn't just send these 6 people. The strength of these 6 venerables was undoubtedly strong. But to deal with 500 beast kings and 2,000 peak Xian beasts, it was still a dream. Their strength was not enough. These 6 people must have led their own teams here. As for them appearing here alone, it was nothing more than a show of force to intimidate his side. But there were only 5 of them left. Could it be? A crazy thought suddenly appeared in Jun Moxie's mind. Could it be possible to kill these 6 venerables here? If it was possible, it would be the best thing in the world. Their eyes were filled with endless murderous intent. Obviously, they don't want me to live. Should I wish for them to live longer? Jun Moxie did not move. His face was as calm as ever. But the moment this thought sprouted in his mind, it was like weeds that had been fertilized. The more it grew, he believed that as long as he killed these 6 people, no matter how many more people from the 3 Holy Lands came, they would all be tigers without claws and teeth. Then, Blizzard Silver City's mission would be successfully completed. Jun Moxie, you're so young. How could you be so vicious? How could you be so ruthless? Looking at Lu Qiu rolling around on the ground and howling in pain, Du Ju and the rest could not contain their anger. Especially Chu Wuqing. If not for Venerable Mei, he would have gone up to Jun Daxiao already. No matter how bad Lu Qiu's character was, he was still with them. Everyone knew that it was the cruelest and most embarrassing thing for a man to suffer such a blow. Even if Lu Qiu was lucky enough to survive, he would only be a laughingstock in the continent, a venerable level eunuch. Hua Feng floated in front of Lu Qiu and grasped Lu Qiu's wrist meridian. His face changed drastically when he checked. Chu Wuqing's face darkened, and he asked, "Brother Hua, how is Lu Qiu's condition?" "His injuries are severe. 7 of his ribs are broken, probably caused by Venerable Mei. More than 20 bones are broken from his shoulders to his thighs, probably caused by Venerable Mei's palm attack. Thankfully, Venerable Mei showed mercy and did not kill him. But what? His lower body is severely injured. The force penetrated through his internal organs, causing his elixir field to explode and his internal organs to shatter. That's not all. I was wondering how Lucio managed to survive after his vital parts were injured. It turns out that, although his meridians are broken, they're still full of vitality. He won't die within a few days. He'll only die after his remaining vitality is used up. However, his vitality is not used up yet, so he can only continue to suffer a lot of pain. It won't help him at all. Huafeng suddenly turned around and glared at Jun Mo Xie. Jun Mo Xie, it's fine if you killed him directly, but why did you add so much Xian Qi to prolong his life and make him beg for death? You despicable villain. You're really a bastard. The expressions on the faces of the four venerable ones changed. Their question was answered, but the answer was so cruel. Jun Moxie's thunderous kicks were mixed with a lot of vitality when he attacked Lucio. Even if this person was beaten to death 100 times, he wouldn't die immediately. As long as the vitality was not exhausted, it would continue to protect Lucio's vital functions so that he could continue to live and stay conscious. But there was no chance for him to survive. At first glance, this sentence seemed to be quite contradictory, but in fact, it was an extremely vicious way to punish people. I want you to die, but I don't want you to die quickly. Even if you're already dead, I want you to experience the most painful torture in this world before you die. Why are you guys like this? Shouldn't you be thanking me? He should have died on the spot with his injuries. But this young master is giving you face, in addition to the fact that I've always been very soft-hearted and kind, so I generously gave him some time to make arrangements for his funeral. This is such a humane way of doing things. I've already done that, but you're still scolding me so viciously. Is it really difficult to be a good person? Jun Mo Xie chuckled and said, "Forget it, I won't mind. I've already said that I'm used to doing good deeds, and I'm born with a good heart. I've always taken the safety of the continent as my responsibility, and I've always had the world's people in my heart. It's understandable that narrow-minded people like you don't understand," Jun Moxie said kindly. Embark, good. Saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. Shameless. Huafeng won, Chu Wuqing, and the rest trembled in anger. On the other side, Lucio suddenly screamed in a hoarse voice, as if his soul was struggling in pain. Chu Wuqing's body shook. He turned to look at him with a complicated expression. "Kill me." Lucio looked at Jun Moxie with hatred and begged Chu Wuqing, "Kill me. Please." His elixir field was destroyed, his Xian Qi was destroyed, and he had to endure unbearable pain. He did not even have the strength to commit suicide. Chu Wuqing's face trembled. He raised his right hand, and a beautiful saber light flashed across the sky and pierced into Lucio's chest. Then a bright red light burst out. Thank you." Lucio thanked him weakly. Although his voice was low, it was full of relief. He suddenly stared at Jun Moxie and screamed with all his remaining strength. "Jun Moxie, wait for me. Tonight, I'll come for you as a ghost. Wait for me." His screams pierced through the sky. Lucio was already motionless. His ugly face was still emitting hatred, and his eyes were still staring at Jun Moxie, emitting a faint light that belonged to hell. The cold wind howled, and Lucio's last sentence echoed in the wind. It was as if the gates of hell were about to open, and thousands of ghosts were about to come out. Everyone who heard this curse before death felt a chill run down their spines, and cold sweat drip down their backs. So, what if you're going to die? Why the *CK are you doing this? Ghost? I'm so scared. Jun Moxie shrunk his neck. Chapter 679. Why go through so much trouble? How long do we have to wait? Isn't it easier to solve it now? Do you think that by blocking my way, you can just leave after saying a few words? Whatever you think, all the good things are yours. Since you're my way, you have to pay the price. And I want the price now. Jun Moxie smiled, raised his right hand, and shouted, "Kill them all. Leave none alive. Today, this place will be the burial place of the 6 venerable ones." He finally issued this resolute order. The killing intent had been accumulated and could no longer be eliminated. You want to kill me? Then I'll kill you all. Even if I can't kill all of you, I'll make sure you lose a lot of combat power. An earth-shattering, mountain-shattering roar rang out. Big Bear and the other 500 muscular men suddenly rushed over from all directions. The skies suddenly darkened, and hundreds of flying Xian beasts soared into the sky, ready to attack at any time. Everyone then realized that the Xian beasts and beast kings were attacking from all directions at the same time. At the same time, they even sealed off the sky, leaving no gap for them to break through. After Jun Moxie made up his mind, he put his hands behind his back and made a very subtle gesture to Third Master Jun Wui. Jun Wui understood tacitly. So, he quickly arranged the most meticulous attack formation in accordance with the positions of the 5 opponents. The Xian beasts received the order and quietly moved to outflank the 5 venerable ones. In just a moment, they had completely surrounded the 5 venerable ones. Previously, they were just watching from the side. Huafeng 1 and the others had all their attention on June and Mei, so they didn't feel anything was wrong. Moreover, they were too confident in their own abilities. They thought that even if they couldn't win, they could always escape. They didn't expect that the Xian beasts, who only knew how to attack fiercely, also knew how to change their formation. They were surrounded in one fell swoop. Although the group of Xian beasts didn't know the way of battle formations, Jun Wui was a great expert in this field. In the current world, he could at least be ranked among the top 3 experts in this field. This was a small test of his skill, so how could it be ordinary? This arrangement could be said to be extremely meticulous. At the same time, the offensive power of the formation was also extremely sharp. Bear King and Bear Mountain led 7 strong men to attack Heartless Venerable Duju. The Tiger King, Earthcracker, and 7 other 2-meter-tall men were engaged in a fierce battle against the venerable, compassionate Zhen Sibei. The Lion King, Carefree Rock, led 7 transformed lions to fight against the venerable of the broken sword, Hua Fengwen. The Monkey King, Ho Qi, led his 11 brothers to attack Chu Wuqing. The Crane King, Long Crane, led his 7 brothers to attack the venerable of the horizon, Xiao Tianya. The Eagle King, the Condor King, led many stronger flying Xian beasts to line up in the sky. Whenever one side was in danger, he would give the order, and a few level 9 flying Xian beasts would attack like sharp arrows. The Qiansun Serpent Queen led the Xian beasts on the ground who didn't participate in the battle to watch the battle. Whenever there was a disadvantage, she would wave her hand, and a few of them would immediately go up to help. The formation of the 2 armies was unusually neat and strong. However, each time they attacked, there would never be more than 20 people. This was because if there were too many people, they wouldn't be able to use their full strength. Instead, it would hinder their movements. Once the battle stabilized after the attack, they would immediately retreat. The next time they attacked, it would be another group of Xian beasts. Jun Wui stood on the shoulder of a big black bear that had returned to its original form. He held a small red flag in his hand. Every time he waved the flag, the formation would change from time to time. With the blood uniform general's rich experience in battle formations, it would be an exaggeration to say that he was using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. It was like using a big knife to chop an ant. Mei Shuyan was helping from the side, but she didn't personally take action. His gaze was deep as he watched with rapt attention. Suddenly, Jun Wui waved the little flag. The Qiansun Serpent Queen let out a roar and led all the Xian beasts under her command to form a neat team. They rushed out like a flood. After a series of attacks, they actually broke up the chaotic battle between the 5 sides and turned it into 5 small battles. This time, the attack was extremely ingenious. It could be said that it was just right, separating all 5 of them. Jun Wui waved the little flag again and again. The Snake King gave another order. The pride of lions, tigers, leopards, monkeys, and bears immediately split up and surrounded the battle circle that their respective kings were participating in. Then, they launched another round of attacks, attacking to their heart's content. Once the battle began, it would be earth-shattering. But at this time, the 5 venerables were fighting on their own and were powerless to reverse the situation. Not only was it impossible to win, even if they wanted to retreat unscathed, it had become a difficult task. Jun Moxie, you little thief, you're really shameless. If you have the guts, fight me one-on-one. Jun Sibei roared angrily, his palms flying as he fought the tigers. He and Du Ju could be considered the two people in the most difficult situation. This was because in the hands of the Bear King and the Tiger King, they each had a divine weapon that exceeded their expectations. In a battle like this, if the side with the advantage in numbers had such a peerless divine weapon, the outcome of the battle could be imagined. In a moment of carelessness, Zhang Sibei's body was pierced by a sword. Blood flowed profusely, and his battle strength was greatly reduced. The Tiger King, Earthcracker, laughed maniacally. He did not personally take action, but only ordered the tigers to continue attacking. He held the divine weapon in his hand and watched from the side, accumulating power to attack. This was truly a tiger watching its prey. In this way, Zhang Sibei had to work even harder. He had to put more than half of his attention on the big boss with the divine weapon. The situation was even worse. I'm shameless? Oh my God, I've been waiting for this sentence. I've waited too long for this. So it turns out that we've always been scolding you 3 holy lands for being shameless. At that time, I was thinking, when would I be able to let you scold me for being shameless? Now that I've finally heard it, I finally understand. So it turns out that being scolded as shameless is such a pleasurable thing. Feeling good is one thing, but I still have to ask you a question. You're a venerable, but you actually want to fight with a mere junior like me alone? Who's the more shameless one here? Jun Mo, Xia laughed loudly and taunted. Venerable Mei, what kind of man are you to bully someone with numbers? You're also a venerable. Do you have the guts to fight me alone? The venerable of the broken sword, Hua Fengwan, flew up with a dazzling sword radiance around him. He temporarily escaped the attack range of the Lion King and the group of lions. However, Jun Wui waved his little flag, and 3 black eagles descended from above. Their sharp claws, sharp beaks, and iron-like wings attacked at the same time. Hua Fengwan's Xian Qi was almost used up. Faced with this attack from the sky, he was in a difficult situation. From the ground to the sky, he did not even have time to rest. He did not even have time to catch his breath. He might as well be on the ground. At least he had time to catch his breath, but he did not have time to do so now. One-on-one, Venerable Hua, you are wrong. There are so many of us. Aren't we fighting one-on-one with you? Don't tell me you want to gang up on the 2 of us with the strength of 6 people? That's not right. That scoundrel Venerable was killed by your own people, so there's only 5 of you left. But even if there's only 5 of you, you're still ganging up on me. Jun Mo, Xia said with a strange smile. I have to say, you are too cruel. You even killed your own people. T. This is not a one-on-one fight. The venerable of the broken sword, Hua Fengwan, tried his best to resist the crazy attacks of the black eagles. Now, he had switched to the other 3 eagles. His body gradually fell back into the encirclement of the lions. On the ground, the Lion King had already pounced on him. The sharp wind from his palm was about to hit his back. Why isn't this a one-on-one fight? I saw it clearly. The Lion King was fighting you one-on-one. His brothers were fighting you one-on-one too. But you were not satisfied. You jumped up and fought with your brothers in the sky again. Venerable Hua, you are too much. How dare you bully the others? Jun Moxie suddenly looked angry. I can't tolerate your shamelessness. Hua Fengwan was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. No matter how shameless a person was, there must be a limit. But when it came to Jun Moxie, there was no limit. What kind of person is he? However, while the 5 venerable lords were being attacked and fighting hard, none of them dared to use their full strength to kill. This was the thing that was truly depressing, to the point that smoke was rising from his heart. Because Venerable Mei had not made his move yet. Jun Moxie had not made his move either. The 2 of them were the biggest threats in the entire battle. It would be fine if the battle continued to be a stalemate. However, If any of the five venerable lords made a big move and caused casualties to the Xian beasts, it was almost foreseeable that Mei Shuiyin would attack crazily at that moment. At that time, the venerable lord would have Xian beasts on the ground and enemies in the sky. Coupled with venerable Mei, who was much more powerful than her, and the fact that she had just made a big move and her Xian energy was depleted, a tragedy was inevitable. That was where the greatest danger lay. However, it was not a solution to drag on like this. Were they really going to die of exhaustion in the end? If they drag on like this, they would be safe for the time being, but it was not a long-term solution. Their enemies were strong and well-trained. They might all die of exhaustion while their enemies were still alive. Therefore, going all out was a bad idea, and delaying was also a bad idea. At this moment, the four venerables were cursing Zhan Cai Bei in their hearts. What kind of stupid idea did he come up with? He dragged us here to demonstrate his power before everyone was here. Now, not only did he fail to intimidate them, but he also caused them to be intimidated. Not only did he lose a venerable, he also fell into a situation where he could not advance or retreat. This is really tragic. In this situation, even if they used the whistle to summon some of their subordinates, it would only add a few more deaths. It was useless to have fewer people. Their enemies were too strong. Jun Moxi and Mei Shuiyin were watching the changes in the battlefield closely, ready to respond at any time. They both knew that the five venerable lords were extremely powerful and were not easy to deal with. Their enemies seemed to be trapped, but it was only a temporary phenomenon. They would definitely not be in a stalemate for long. They just did not have a good idea and were thinking of a countermeasure. With the strength of these five people, it was not difficult for them to escape. Chapter 680. Jun Wui's face was solemn, and he commanded calmly. The Xian beasts, who had always been like loose sand, had unexpectedly become a clear-cut weapon in just a day and a half's time. Jun Wui's greatest brilliance was that he didn't let the Xian beasts attack together in a chaotic manner. Not only did he divide them into waves, but he also let the Xian beasts of the same species unite and attack together. This way, they all understood each other's fighting style, and their companions' weaknesses were their own weaknesses. Everyone knew themselves and their enemies, and they cooperated with each other. Jun Wui had thought about this kind of tactic when he was fighting the Xian beasts in Tiannan. How good would it be if he could only command such a troop one day? At that time, the Xian beasts had attacked in a chaotic manner, and Jun Wui had seen the weakness of the Xian beasts at that time. Now that this team was really in his hands, once those advantages were integrated, they were instantly magnified countless times. Even their own weaknesses were eliminated as much as possible. Their fighting strength had increased by more than 10 times. Under any circumstances, one must consider a reasonable battle strategy. This was the success of a general who had fought in hundreds of battles, and the third master Jun Wu, he had succeeded in doing this. Therefore, he had been invincible in the previous battles. Therefore, he had been able to prepare for today's battle, even though he had been in such a hurry. Otherwise, even if Jun Moxi had such an idea, and Jun Wui had carried it out, it would only have been empty talk. But now, he had trapped the five venerables in an impossible situation and forced them into an unprecedentedly bitter battle. Regardless of the outcome of this battle, Jun Wui's tactic was exceptionally successful. There was absolutely no flaw. Success was never a fluke. A fluke success was destined not to last long. Even Mei Shuiyin, who was watching from the side, felt ashamed of her inferiority. Jun Wui's ability to command was truly a genius. Most importantly, how did he manage to let Bear Mountain and the others successfully outflank the five venerable ones without making a sound? Furthermore, the encirclement was so tight. Mei Shuiyin could not figure out the answer to this question. It should be known that once these fellows received the order to prepare for battle, each of them would be more excited than the other. How could the five venerable ones' divine senses not notice such a commotion? But now, the actual situation was that such an incomprehensible situation had appeared. Big Bear, Earthcracker, and the others had soundlessly outflanked them in such a manner that no one had noticed. This was simply unimaginable. It was only after the battle, when Mei Shuyan humbly asked him for advice, that he finally understood. It turned out that the Beast Kings were huddled together to watch the battle. Each and every one of them was impatient, pushing each other with their shoulders and buttocks, baring their teeth at each other. After receiving Jun Moxie's hint, Jun Wui had an idea and said, "It's naturally inconvenient for everyone to huddle together. But why must everyone huddle together on this side? Isn't there another 3 sides? It doesn't matter which side we look at. Just go and look for it on your own. Just be careful. Don't disturb the battle, or you'll lose your treasure." This was a very simple suggestion, and the Beast Kings, who had wanted to watch the show, dispersed one by one. Because they wanted to see more clearly, they all chose the closest and most suitable spot for their eyes. However, when it came to battle, it was also the best spot to attack. As a result, it led to an awkward situation for the 5 venerable ones. After knowing this, Mei Shuyan admired Jun Wui from the bottom of her heart, as expected of the blood-cloaked general. With just one sentence, countless Xian beasts automatically fell into his trap, and the 5 venerable ones fell into an awkward situation that they had never encountered before. Just this treachery alone was not something an ordinary person could achieve. The battle was changing subtly, becoming more and more intense. But what gave the 5 venerable ones the most pressure was not the frenzied attacks of the Beast Kings, but from another person. This person did not participate in the battle from the beginning to the end, but his shouting and wrangling were as annoying as a fly. The 5 venerable ones had the urge to strangle him to death, then trample him into meat paste, then resurrect him, then trample him into meat paste again, and repeat the process 10,000 times. This person who received such a supreme honor was naturally Jun Moxie, Jun Daxiao. This guy was watching the battle and commanding at the same time. His hands were dancing, his eyebrows were dancing, and his spittle was flying everywhere. His words made the 5 venerable ones furious. Bear Mountain, F*CKU. To deal with Duju, you should use your bear paw to grab his crotch. What's the use of always hitting his shoulders? The key is to hit his vital parts. Hitting his crotch is the way to go. Isn't he called Duju? Cut off his back and let him live up to his name. Yes, hit his, but like you hit your son. Break his chrysanthemum. Even if you can't beat him to death, you should embarrass him to death. Let him die. Die my A*guess. Kill both his front and back. Bucho, sure, that's a good punch. Hit the hypocrite Hua from Wen's eyes. Yes, hit him like a panda first, then he will look like a Xian beast. F*CK. Aim at his eyes, idiot. You're asking for trouble by hitting his face. He is so thick-skinned. Be careful, or you'll die from the recoil. Don't you know that he may have cultivated the legendary Golden Mask and Iron Mask skin? Crane third, you have to change your tactics. That's the world's edge venerable. Do you know what the world's edge is? That's the edge of the sky. This means that the world's edge venerable will run away when he sees that the situation is not right. Yes, he's a guy who is ready to run away at any time. Chu Wuqing, have fun fighting one-on-one. Ha ha, don't be anxious. There will be more people fighting one-on-one with you. You'll be satisfied. One-on-one means that you're fighting all of us, right? This is the truth, and it's the truth of the 3 holy lands. Shamelessness is the true meaning of fighting one-on-one. Cha, don't stare at me. Pay attention to your defense, idiot. Why are you looking at me when you're fighting? Are you trying to show that your eyes are big? Idiot? Are you itching for a beating? You're really F*King shameless. Zhan Sibei, look at your old face. F*CK your grandpa. You're already like an eggplant, and you're still stretching your legs and curling up your feet to fight. I bet that if a fly were to fly on your face, you'd be able to kill it immediately. It's too F*King ugly. It's like a weathered eggplant being cooked and air-dried. It's too disgusting. I don't object to you fighting, but you should at least tidy up your appearance, right? Running out with such an ugly face. Damn it, Even the Xian beasts feel disgusted when they see you. Look, are you trembling? Are you blushing? Can't you admit that you're old? Are you angry, old man? I just want to piss you off to death. Piss you off to death. He. Shameless. 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 Jean Sibei was so angry that his whole body was trembling. His face was red as he scolded furiously. He felt that his stomach was about to explode. Shameless? Bastard. You're the shameless one. Your whole family is shameless. All 18 generations of your ancestors are shameless. Jun Moxie jumped up and scolded furiously. Then, he laughed weirdly. You still have a nerve to say that others are shameless. You're just an old lady leaning against the wall to eat porridge. Don't you understand? Today, I'll teach you a lesson. The so-called old lady leaning against the wall to eat porridge is despicable, shameless, and obscene. What? Are you really angry? You'd better focus on the fight. Be good. I'm doing this for your own good. Don't be distracted during the fight. *T. I told you not to be distracted. Look, you've suffered a loss, haven't you? You've even gotten a kick on your butt. Wow. If you don't listen to your elders, you'll suffer a loss, grandson. It had to be said that this fellow's mouth was really too poisonous. It was like a machine gun that never stopped. Mei Shuiyin felt tired for him as she listened to him. However, this brat was actually enjoying it and never got tired of it. He talked nonstop and used endless filthy words. It was like a swarm of flies circling the ears of the 5 venerable ones, buzzing and causing them to be annoyed. They were already remorseful and angry about Lu Qiu's death. Now that they were surrounded, they felt pressured, and Mei Shuiyin was glaring at them like a tiger watching its prey. Now that they were being nagged by this brat, they were so annoyed that their heads were about to explode. Mei Shuiyin felt embarrassed. Xia, stop scolding. It's beneath your dignity. Besides, it's too unpleasant. Jun Moxie looked at her in surprise. What? Do you really think I'm so bored to practice my mouth? Or do you really think the current formation is enough to trap them? The 5 of them were venerable realm experts. They're just waiting for an opportunity or thinking of a countermeasure. Once they have a chance, they'll run away instantly. Don't you think what I'm doing is very effective? Look, these old men are fuming with anger. Even the gods can't think of a countermeasure in this situation. Besides, this is a good opportunity for us. I'm fighting. Do you understand, silly girl? Jun Moxie cackled. Today, I'll show you that my mouth can also kill, and it can even kill venerable ones. Venerable ones who are at the same level as you. Jun Moxie even attacked Mei Shuiyin along the way. Mei Shuiyin was confused by his fallacious reasoning, and then she was so angry at his last sentence that her stomach hurt. She rolled her eyes at him and turned her head away angrily. Even Mei Shuiyin, who did not attack him directly, was angered to this extent, let alone the 5 venerable ones. Mei Shuiyin turned her head and realized that what this brat said seemed to be very reasonable. She looked at the 5 venerable ones, whose eyes were almost spewing fire. In this situation, not to mention thinking of a countermeasure, they couldn't even fight normally. Especially Jean Sibei, who was the most injured. He was so angry that his hands and feet were trembling. His white beard was flying, and his moves were a little messy. As Jun Moxie successfully aroused the anger of the 5 venerable ones, the situation in the field became even more fiery. Everyone was fighting crazily, and the sound of fists and feet hitting flesh resounded. Xian beasts had thick skin and were not afraid of beatings, and the venerable ones had copper skin and iron bones. Both sides were getting more and more angry, and everyone had injuries on their bodies. Earthcracker, don't you know how to beat a dog when it's down? Can't you see that Jean Sibei is already so angry that he can't think properly? Hurry up and hit him. Hit him hard. Yes, stab his crotch, pierce his chrysanthemum, and hit his stomach with 2 punches, kick his butt, smash his chest, and hit his head until he has a concussion. That feels good. Ha ha ha. Jean Sibei, are you happy? Who asked you to be arrogant? Arrogant your mother. That earthquake and landslide didn't kill you back then, but today I'm going to anger you to death. Even if I don't anger you to death, I'll disgust you to death. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.